The thriving human civilization was flooded, and humanity fell into decline. But in the new world, underwater life flourished. And in this dilapidated building lived two children, Lita and Boda, brother and sister. Lita pointed to the horizon and said that there was someone there. Boda turned around. Looking at the silhouette, Botha was horrified, thinking that it was a monster. Unlike her brother, Lita was delighted. She jumped onto the boat and began to swim towards the silhouette. She screamed, "Dad came back," but her brother knew that couldn't be. He began to swim towards his sister, but the monster immediately noticed him. And they began to swim towards him. Then Botha grabbed the rope. He decided that it would be better to sail to a small piece of land. But the monsters did not give up. One of them swam up and crashed into the back ones. The monsters surrounded the children and began to bang their heads against the buildings. Things were bad. With every jolt, the buildings collapsed. At that moment, Boda remembered his father's promise to protect his children, even at the cost of his own life. And the last request of the father was to take care of Lita. Their father risked his life to save them, so Botha couldn't give up. Our hero took up arms to fight back against the monsters. But suddenly the monsters jumped and completely destroyed the building. The children fell into the water. Debris fell. Fortunately, the children were not hit. They climbed onto the boat, but the monsters managed to do it too. Boda was wounded. He couldn't fight, but he didn't want to die either. At the moment when the monster opened its mouth, someone attacked him. The silhouette that Lita saw earlier was not a monster, but a girl. It's time to rewind time a little to get to know our heroes. Boda and his father were at the bottom. Dad warned Boda about the glass, but Boda said that he could see it himself. It seems Botha wants his dad to treat him like an adult. Boda found some canned food and Dad told him to take it all. Then Boda looked at the jar and asked what it was. Dad replied, "It was powdered milk." Dad scolded Boda for not reading, but Boda believed that he didn't need to read. But his dad explained to him that even if something seemed useless to him now, he would need it in the future. Boda asked Dad to stop grumbling. Dad collected the forks and Boda said, "They have plenty of forks," but Dad repeated that everything could come in handy. They collected a full basket of things, and having opened the balloons, easily rose up. Before this, Botha looked back. He looked at the ruins where life had once flourished. But now all these buildings look gloomy. The guys got to the boat. Lita waved to her dad, and he asked if she saw anything. She replied, "Nothing." They hadn't seen any birds for a couple of months. Boda asked if it was true that there were other people. Lita asked if everyone was in heaven, like Mom. Dad decided to give them hope for a bright future. He insisted that the ocean was big, so they hadn't met anyone yet, and that hadn't happened yet. He will protect them with his life, but they must also help each other. The father's speech helped the boys, and it calmed the father himself. They are all in the same boat. Dad is responsible for hunting and repairing the boat. Boda is responsible for food and water. Lita does the laundry. Since last year, Dad has allowed Botha to hunt on the surface, and recently he allowed me to go down into the ruins with him. One of their favorite activities is examining strange things raised from under the water. There is also a rule that the guys must follow. It is a time, an approaching time that the whole family dreads. The boys quickly ran down, but Botha noticed that he had not removed the fish. He wanted to remove it, but his father pushed Botu down, then climbed in himself. Night fell. The family gathered and sat in silence, only the clock ticking on the ship. Suddenly the ship began to shake. The children clung to their father. Nocturnal monsters arrived and surrounded the family's ship. The monsters were pounding the ship. The children could barely contain their screams. Boda was horrified, then Dad hugged him. And he said that everything would be fine. They would push the boat a little and leave. The father held his children tightly and did not let go until the monsters finally left. Once again, only the ticking of the clock could be heard. Dad put the children to bed. Boda asked his father if there were also monsters where he used to live, and his father answered, yes. They live in water, but they had throwers. This phrase surprised Boda. Throwers were the name given to those who fought monsters, to protect his cities, and he was one of them. This is the thrower's tattoo sign. Boda asked what the dots under it were, and Dad explained that they were stars. But Botha didn't know what stars were. He had never seen them. Dad said that the stars are something so bright that you can see them even at night. Long ago, people used the stars to avoid getting lost, and also used them to navigate the sea. They look like millions of bright gems scattered across the black sky. He so wanted to show them how wonderful it was. So Boda fell asleep listening to his father's story. In the morning, the boys came out and there was complete chaos. Even a week's supply of food was spoiled. The children were upset, but their dad hugged them and said, most importantly, that they were lucky to be unharmed. But Botha said it looked like they were telling them to get out of here. Dad said it just means he has work for the week. Boda wanted to go down to the ruins alone while Dad was busy with repairs. But Dad didn't like this idea and forbade him to go down there. Boda said that he wanted to help his father and reminded him that they had gone down there yesterday. Dad sighed. It was hard to keep the children alive. Dad made a rule that children were not allowed to go down to the ruins until they were 17. Of course, Botha shouted that he was already an adult. Dad's explanation that all this was for their safety did not reassure Botha. He wanted them to stop thinking of them as little children. Dad said that only ruins were forbidden. They will go wherever they want. This did not please Botha. Botha was being capricious and complaining that they had nowhere else to go except water. Just like that brainless fish in a can, Botha didn't understand simple things. Lita shouted, "Stop swearing, let them look over there instead." She pointed to the birds. Then the family noticed a house on the island, and the children decided that there were people there. So the children started screaming, but Dad quickly shut their mouths. He took the weapon and told the children to wait, and if he did not return, let them swim away. Botha asked Dad what he wanted to fight with them. Dad explained that it depended on the people. Dad swam up to the building, climbed in and started looking for people. He shouted if there was anyone, but no one answered. Then, plucking up his courage, he went upstairs. But at the top, there was a terrible picture. 3 skeletons of adults and 1 skeleton of a baby. It seemed the poor people had died a slow death, but the children didn't know it yet. They hoped there were good people there. Then Botha noticed a silhouette, and Dad found explosives, and they didn't understand why they needed them. But he himself will soon understand why these people died here. Dad noticed a hole. The steel rods are bent inward, meaning they attacked from the outside. There were the same marks on their boat. Horror overcame Dad when suddenly he heard Lita. Then he quickly swam to the boat and asked what had happened. He saw that Botha was going somewhere. Botha shouted, "There is someone in the water." But when Dad looked out, he realized that it was not a man, it was a monster. That if you pretend to be human, you can lure them to you. Then the monster suddenly disappeared. Although no, it was right under the ship. Dad quickly grabbed the children, but the monster jumped out of the water, and he bit off a part of the ship. The monster was huge. The family was in danger. The monster tore the ship into 2 pieces. The father held the children. But the monster had no intention of stopping. He waved his huge tail, and he hit the ship. Pieces of the ship flew towards the island. The boys were washed up on an island. Dad asked Botha if he was okay. Botha answered yes. But Lita did not open her eyes, and Botha was scared, but she simply lost consciousness. Just as Dad was glad that the children were okay, Botha noticed that the reinforcement was sticking out of him. Dad lied that everything was fine, but Botha didn't believe him. But Dad said that they didn't have time. He asked Botha to take Lita and leave. Botha clearly didn't want to leave his father alone, but he had no choice. When the children ran away, Dad stood up, despite the terrible pain. The situation worsened when the monster swam right up to the father. The sun was scorching him, but he still came out of the water, the monster staring at the reinforcement. Then it began to turn its head. It noticed the children. The creature seemed to understand that the father was not going anywhere and decided to kill the children. It grinned. Before running to the children, the father shouted to the children to run faster. Miraculously, the children managed to jump inside the building, evading the monster. But the creature did not want to retreat. It threw its tail into the building. He attacked completely blindly, and the children had to run away again. Botha jumped under the rubble. The children hid there. The monster's tail disappeared. After a couple of seconds, Botha noticed his father and called him. But it was the same creature. The creature pretended to be their father to catch them, and it worked. The monster grabbed Botha, and Botha tried to free himself from the grip, but was unable to. The creature dragged Botha into its mouth. Botha could only call for Dad, and he was lucky. His dad appeared in front of him and cut off the monster's tentacles. He caught Botha. They landed. Dad moved Botha away. Then he shouted at the brat not to dare touch his son. Then Dad shouted to Botha to hide behind the rocks. Dad had never seen a leviathan of this size before, but he couldn't retreat. After all, the children would die. Botha and Lita would die, and the father could not allow this. He will protect his children. Dad rushed towards the monster, and he began to cut up this little fish, despite his wound. Dad quickly climbed onto the monster. He wanted to plunge the knife into the monster's head. The monster is big but slow. If it is outside the water, Dad will win. Dad's skills were exceptional, but the monster was also strong. Leviathan opened his mouth, but the Pope raised his weapon and cut the rope. He pulled a huge club out of the building and used it to attack the monster. Botha was impressed. He thought that his dad was doing well. Dad got out and started chopping off the monster's face. Suddenly the log shattered and the monster closed its mouth, its teeth sinking into Dad. The father looked at his son, realizing that he would never see his face again. He always worries about them, every time Botha dives and he loses sight of him. It felt like my heart was going to burst out of my chest, and when he held them that night, he may have been smiling, but he was also scared. Scared that he could lose them was what was killing him. The fear that he couldn't protect them. This is what always scared Dad. He smiled and said that he loved Botha, and asking Botha to take care of Lita, he blew himself and the monster up. The vile creature was defeated, its body slowly sinking to the bottom. Bota rose to his feet and began to cry inconsolably. The fog enveloped everything. Bota barely found his sister, but Lita cried bitterly. He approached her and asked what happened. She pointed to the ocean without raising her head. Bota looked out from behind the ship and saw his father's torn body. His sister grabbed him by the jacket and asked him not to leave. Then Bota turned around, and he saw that there was no skin or eyes on his sister's face. Bota woke up from a nightmare and saw his sister lying next to him. Remembering his dad, he began to cry. He realized that it was not for nothing that his dad forbade him to do everything. He began to scold himself for not having realized this earlier. He managed to do this every day, while still making the children happy. From now on, they are on their own. In the morning, Botha and Lita went outside and found their boat. Their things were there, so Botha quickly ran to her and asked Lita to help him. But Lita sat and stared into space. Bota called her again. Then Lita asked where Dad was. Bota froze and thought, what should she tell him? Could she bear the truth? Lita asked again where he was. Did he die? Was he with his mother in heaven? Then Bota couldn't take it anymore and burst into tears. After some time, the children finally got their things out. They found the watch, but it was useless. Lita's stomach growled. Bota asked if she was hungry. Lita lied that no, apparently she didn't want to burden her brother, but her stomach growled again. She shouted, she can endure it. Bota offered to catch something, but there was no harpoon gun, no other tools either. He picked up the box, and the forks fell to the ground. Bota remembered how his dad collected them and cried. He wiped away his tears and tied a fork to a stick. It could be used instead of a harpoon. But he was afraid to go down into the water. Fear paralyzed Bota, and he thought, what if that monster is still alive? The water he is used to now scares him to death. Lita asked him not to go there, when suddenly a crab approached them. It became their only meal. Bota and Lita fried crabs. Lita asked if Bota would be there. Bota replied that he was not hungry. She crunched on the crab sweetly, and Bota hid the rumbling of his stomach. Bota was worried because there was no food or water here. They needed a plan. They got a little bit of rain, but that would last for a day at most. He remembered the conversation with his dad. His dad said that he would teach Bota how to drink seawater. You need to cut out the bottom of the bottle, wrap it inward, and then cover it with a glass of seawater. Water that evaporates due to light will flow into the bent areas. That's what Bota did. They prepared a couple of bottles, and it seems to be working. The boys drank the water and shouted joyfully, it's not salty. No more worrying about water. Bota learned a lot from his father, but who knows how long they will live here. It was time to explore the building. Bota stood up and Lita followed him. They went up and saw skeletons. Lita clung to her brother, who was himself trembling with fear. And Lita asked why they died. Bota decided to see if there was anything useful here, and then quickly get out of here. Bota found a canister of gasoline. The children found explosives, and Botha remembered that it was the same bomb that his father had used. Then he remembered how his dad fought and wondered if he could ever do the same. Bota looked at the skeletons again and realized that they were a family. Then he thought, will he be able to protect Lita so that she doesn't end up like them? Bota lit a fire while Lita caught crabs. The forks really did come in handy. He understood that if they were going to live here, he would have to go into the water. And if that monster appears again, then he will use the sword to protect Lita. In the end, it was Dad's last wish. Bota noticed the button and without thinking, pressed it. The sword began to hiss, and a second later the sword flew forward. Taking Bota with him, Bota flew into the column and dropped the sword. Lita caught them some food and said that she found something. She took her brother by the hand and led him. At first, Bota thought it was just a door, but Lita pushed it aside. It was a basement. There were crabs hiding there. Bota decided to look around, because there might be something useful there. Lita asked him to be careful. Bota himself was scared. But when the light penetrated into the basement, he saw that it was full of fish. He immediately jumped into the water. There were a lot of tasty fish there. Bota was able to catch one fish. Now they have both water and food. He became inspired, thinking that they could live here. But then he went down lower and saw a lot of leviathan eggs. This island is a nest of a leviathan. Botha wanted to get away from there, but one leviathan grabbed him. The monster had already opened its mouth, but Bota stuck a fork into its eye. Bota got out, but the monster followed him. He couldn't be left alive. But Bota was still a child and didn't know how to fight. Bota quickly ran upstairs and slammed the door behind him. But this didn't stop the monster. He sank his teeth into the door and it began to crack. Bota finally attacked the monster and there was silence. Then Botha decided that it would be better to close this passage. When he finished, he realized that Lita was gone. He got scared and started looking for her. He went outside and saw Lita standing by the water. He shouted for her to move away. But Lita looked into the distance, and Bota looked in the same direction. And seeing the silhouette, he decided that the monster was here, and he started to tremble. Lita hoped it was Dad, so she swam towards him. The monsters woke up and headed towards the children. Boda dragged his sister to a patch of land. The island is so close, and yet the boys can't get there. The monsters have already surrounded them. They attacked. Boda had already decided that they were finished. These monsters would tear them to shreds. And he can't do anything. But Botha remembered how Dad fought. He decided that he couldn't give up so quickly. He had to protect Lita. The monster jumped out of the water and Boda cut it in half. There were still about 100 monsters left. They jumped out. And despite this, Boda attacked the monsters. The building crumbled. Boda grabbed his sister and jumped onto the boat, and the monsters began to devour each other. The boys quickly grabbed the oars and swam back. They managed to swim to the island, but the monsters began to swim towards them. They were already approaching. The guys went upstairs. The monsters had already crawled inside. Boda tried to cut the stairs, but the monsters were faster. Boda quickly crawled up, but one monster was already behind. He cut Botha's back, and the ladder broke under the monster's weight. The creatures began to try to climb up, but they couldn't, and then they just looked at the children and growled. Lita was scared when she saw Botha's wound, but Botha said that it was better this way than being eaten. They got up, but when they opened the door they saw a monster. The monster remembered Botha and immediately attacked him. Botha did not have time to react. The creature had already opened its mouth when suddenly Lita attacked the monster. The little girl was able to save her brother, but now the monster has turned on her. The monster was blinded and guided by its sense of smell. Lita pressed herself against the wall. To save his sister, Boda grabbed the canister and started hitting it. The monster turned around. Then Boda threw the canister into the monster's mouth and jumped back. Boda rose up and cut the rebar, and soon the spark turned into fire. The monster began to fry. Boda got up and, grabbing his sister, ran away from there. They were climbing up. The monster was rushing back and forth in agony and hit the bomb. The bomb rolled straight towards the guys. Boda told Lita to duck. The explosives exploded along with the building, sending debris flying in all directions. The children fell into the water, and the building debris killed many monsters. It looks like all the monster eggs have been smashed and the children have risen to the surface, but the entire island was destroyed. The children were unable to rest. The monster appeared again, and there were a lot of them. The poor children weren't even given a break. The monsters were advancing, and Boda tried his best to scare them away with his sword. But this was not enough. The children's luck began to run out. At that moment, a miracle happened, and help came to the children. They were saved by a stranger. The monsters began to swim towards her. The girls started shooting at the monsters. They cowardly ran away. The boys were distracted by their savior, and forgot that there were monsters around them too. Boda tried to kill the monster, but one blow was not enough. Fortunately, the girl saved him. The girl needed to recharge, but the monster appeared. She was able to dodge his claws, but dropped her weapon into the water. It was already impossible to get it out, so the girl pulled out 2 swords, and she began to cut up these monsters like ordinary fish. She killed them with fury. Her talent was incredible. The girl killed monsters so easily it was hard to believe. These stinking monsters didn't have a chance. They tried to attack the children, but the girl saved them again, and in just a couple of minutes, all the monsters were dead. She finished and noticed that the children were looking at her. Sure, she saved them, but maybe she was just trying to kill the monsters. Boda didn't understand whether she was an enemy or not, whether she could be trusted. The girl finally spoke. The children were lucky to meet the harpooner on the open sea. Boda froze. He remembered that his dad was also a harpooner. The girl said her name was Kana, and she was from the Busan Union, but she didn't say much to the children. But then they heard a noise. A ship appeared on the horizon. A ship the size of an entire island. This is the unification of Busan. The submarine floated out of the water, and the guy climbed out and said hello to Kana. Kana said they were too slow. Bruce countered that she was just fast. Botha and Lita saw so many people for the first time. They were all looking at the children from the ship. Then Boda burst into tears. Lita said they were safe. Boda hugged his sister tightly, thinking they had succeeded. They didn't yet know that people could be worse than monsters. Kana was ordered to inspect everything. They cannot allow anyone to escape. She asked how things were down there, and the doctor replied that she had cleaned up pretty well. Clean, all that's left are diced bodies. Kana is so angry. She could have left him at least someone, Bruce said. Kana would never let the monster survive. Of all the throwers, they were unlucky enough to meet Kana. Doc asked if she destroyed them all. Kana answered no. Bruce said he had never seen such an ugly monster. Submariners found the corpse of a monster. It was huge, at least 50 meters long. One of the 7 sea devils, Doc asked. Kana killed him. Kana replied that it was definitely not her. People started discussing who it could be, and Kana looked at the children. Botha and Lita were trying to come to their senses, and the man asked how long they had been drifting. Judging by the appearance, one gets the impression that there is clearly quite a lot. Boda answered, 10 years, the man shouted. The 2 of them survived for 10 whole years. He started hitting Bot. He couldn't believe they had been drifting for so long. Lita got angry and pushed the boar away from her brother, then shouted, "It's true!" Then the boar shouted, "How dare she shout at him? She even knows who he is." Lita answered calmly, "A minor civil servant." Bada burst into tears and told that his dad was with him until the monster appeared. The man said his name was Kip from the refugee center and he would be keeping an eye on them. That is, he will keep an eye on them. If they have questions, let them ask. Bada asked who these people were. The man replied that they were probably seeing harpooners for the first time. Then Bada remembered his dad again. He realized that his dad hadn't lied. The man said that Kana, who saved them from the sea monsters, was special. "She's a 3-star harpooner. Impressive, isn't she?" Kip asked. Harpooners mark on their bodies the number of monsters they have killed. Each star represents 100 monsters killed. Many harpooners died without even earning one. Bada asked, "Then 6 stars means at least 600 monsters." Kip laughed and shouted, "Impossible! 4 stars is the maximum." If such a harpooner existed somewhere, this man would already have become a legend. Dad definitely had 6 stars. He was hardly lying. Kana gave permission to land. Bada noticed that Kana had taken her father's sword. Because of its hard shell, human counterattacks didn't work, and they all died because of the scutum. The mega crab scutum was not killed by the harpooners. It devoured one after another. And then he returned home, having eaten his fill. And this is not some kind of fairy tale. And Kana knew this for sure, because she was on that ship when the monster ate her loved ones. She saw everything with her own eyes. For them, people are just floating food. The boys sailed to the main entrance of the Busan Union and got out of the boat, and the man gave away the things he could get from their ship. And Kip said that they would provide them with temporary housing. Bada asked if that meant they could stay. Kip explained, if they wanted to stay here for a long time. It was not good to make trouble, but the children were glad they could stay. Only now Kip noticed that the children were walking barefoot, and the first thing he decided to do was get them shoes. His shift was over, but he still decided to take the children to the market. The kids were amazed by everything, the size of the ship and the fact that the boat did not shake. Bada noticed that these people also collect relics from the bottom. Kip brought the children to the market. Everything was shining, and the talk of people filled the entire market. The children were amazed. They turned their heads and looked at the shelves. They heard music for the first time and also saw new food. Kip asked the children to keep up as they approached the man with a crowd of shoes. The man said 30 nuts for 2 pairs. Kip asked if the price had really gone up that much. "They're refugees. He can't give them any slack," the man snorted. Kip asked if the children had anything to bargain with. Bada rummaged around and pulled out a watch. But this didn't impress the man at all. There was a whole wall of clocks behind him. Bada started rummaging around again, and then the man noticed a bottle of whiskey. He decided to fool the kids and said he would exchange this bottle for boots. The children were delighted, but Kip stopped them, and cursing the man, shouted to everyone, "These children have whiskey." People immediately crowded around and started shouting, "Real whiskey." They started to bustle about and began to offer 300, 500, and even 900 nuts. This way the kids were able to buy not only shoes, but also food. Lita said the people here are nice. They gave so much for 1 bottle of alcohol. If they had known this would happen, they wouldn't have poured it all into the ocean. But Botha explained that they had no choice. Rainwater was more necessary. Kip said that the price of goods changes. We must not forget about that. The only thing you can trust here is money. Kip stopped at the door and said that this is where they would live. The room was small and very dirty, but at least it belonged to them. Kip was unhappy with the room, but the kids were delighted. They plopped down on the bed, then looked out the window. Lita shouted, "A minor civil servant. The sky is sparkling." Kip got angry. And yet he explained that these were stars, and the children looked at the night sky again. Bada remembered his father's conversation about the stars and burst into tears. Doc and others raised the monster from the bottom. Bruce again called the monster ugly, but Doc was happy with the valuable specimen. "This is what the chief chemist looks like," Bruce said. "So it's Contrasi." He wondered if he could survive after fighting such a monster. But the doctor was thinking about something else until now. Humanity knew too little about monsters. As a scientist, the doctor is obliged to investigate this and unravel the secrets of the monsters. All the doc wants to do is take this thing apart. Kana came to some old man named Sting. Sting immediately said that this was a real find. "This is a harpooner's sword. How did something so valuable get here?" Kana looked at the sword. If it really was a harpooner's sword, then its owner must be that man, the Leviathan killer Theo. Sting asked what she was going to do. Kana answered, "Those children can't stay, what a pity." For the first time in their lives, the children went to bed looking at the stars, without worrying about monsters. Because the harpooners protect this place, but for some reason, Bada couldn't sleep. Just like Kana, she was thinking about the monster. The battle wounds were clearly visible on the body, showing how desperate the battle had been. The owner of the harpooner's sword was definitely Theo. Did he really kill the devil? Why, in order to protect the children, Theo also tried to protect his family. Kana's parents and she were refugees who lived on the high seas. They combed the seabed to survive. Kane was 14 at the time. Dad said they were hunting for treasure. He found the ball and gave it to Kana. She saw a whole new world inside the ball. She looked at him and thought, people used to live in places like this. But Kana decided to give it away. She said that she didn't need it. Dad asked why. Kana said it could be sold, but Mom said it was a gift. She could just enjoy it, and that was it. Kan's heart began to beat happily. She wanted to live in a place where refugees sold scrap metal to the Busan Union. And in return, they received supplies. The boat she saw outside was a source of melancholy. She thought that people there didn't have to be afraid of monsters. She wanted to live there. All the refugees wanted to become citizens of the Busan Union. Life for refugees was dangerous, with accidents and injuries occurring. There were also attacks by monsters. People were dying every day. Dad kept repeating that they had to find the treasure, then they would be given citizenship. But Kana didn't believe that there was treasure under this pile of scrap metal. And yet, one ordinary day, the guys found him. They picked up the find and were glad that they were finally able to do this. Kana asked if this pile of metal was the treasure, and Dad answered, "This is a device developed by an ancient civilization for immersion. They will soon join the Busan Union and will be able to become its citizens." The family hugged, and Kana was glad that they wouldn't have to swim around the area anymore. Everyone was overjoyed, but that's when the nightmare began. The sea monster came. The monster was devouring Kana's loved ones before her eyes, and all she could do was watch. Mom was also in the monster's mouth. Kana heard her mother asking her to hide. A second later, the monster closed its mouth and human blood splattered all over the ship. No matter how hard people tried to attack the monster, they were unsuccessful. The unfortunate people had no chance to escape. The boy swam to the ship, but the man said that they could no longer be saved. The crab threw his spines into the boat, and Dad found Kana and told her to follow him. They ran to the captain's deck and Dad gave a distress signal. He shouted to the Busan Union that they needed help. It was a refugee fleet. They were attacked by a giant sea monster, and it was Theo who heard the signal. The radio hissed and the Union contacted them. The man shouted. They were attacked. The poor fellow was choking with fear, but the Union spoke. "They are not responsible for protecting refugees," Dad shouted. "They have a child. He begs to save at least her." But the Union wished him luck and turned off the radio. Then Dad shouted, "They found relics from Masood." At that moment, the monster attacked them and grabbed Dad. Kana ran to Dad, but Dad shouted at Kane not to approach the monster. The monster crushed him. The sparkle in Kana's eyes quickly disappeared. Her mom and dad were laughing and hugging her just recently. Kana lost hope and a reason to live, and the monster was about to attack her. But when she opened her eyes, she saw the guy. Theo said it was too early to say goodbye to life. Theo told the man that he was leaving the child with him. The man asked who he was. Then Theo stood up and said, "He is Theo, a harpooner from the Busan Union." The man was delighted to learn that Theo was a harpooner and had come to save them. He stood up and said he thought the Union had left them to die. Theo said this ship is going to sink, let them use the lifeboat. While he was distracting the monster, the man trembled again and asked him. He came here alone, that's how it was. Theo fearlessly went after the monster that others couldn't even hurt. The monster tried to strike Theo, and Theo hoped that his sword would be able to pierce its shell. Theo dodged sharply and freed the lifeboat for the boys. Then he returned to the battle with the monster. He quickly spun around and hit the monster. Theo was able to make a crack in the shell, but that's all. The monster is tougher than Theo thought. Then Theo decided to increase the power. He pressed the button and the sword hissed. Still, Theo is cool. When the sword rang, he decided to try again. Theo hit the claw and it cracked, and the monster growled. And Theo looked at the corpses and asked the monster, "Never seen such prey before. I'm glad I ate my fill of people." Theo charged at the monster, his sword clanging loudly as it hit its shell. Kana couldn't take her eyes off Theo as he fought the monster on equal terms. He was not eaten, and he was not afraid. Even more, he managed to attack it. The shell started to crumble. Theo will be able to cut this crab. Predator hunter Theo was able to cut the claw of this creature. Dad is not just cool, he is a legend. Theo changed the gas tank, but this is the last one. So Theo decided to finish quickly, but the creature realized that Theo was strong. And then she decided to destroy the ship, or simply capsize it. He pulled out a piece of the ship and threw it where Kana and the man were standing. Theo was furious and Kana begged the man to pull her out, but the man was too scared. He simply ran away, leaving the child to die. And Dad continued to attack the monster. But there was something strange. The monster did not respond to Theo's blows. The man ran out and screamed. He didn't want to die. Suddenly the monster started to rumble. Theo shouted, "Everyone lie down!" The monster used its spikes. One of them pierced his arm and the other one his leg. That man was unlucky. The thorns pierced his back and he died. Theo tried to pull out the spikes, but the monster's claw was already in front of him. However, Daddy is not so simple. He dodged and stuck one spike right into the claw. Then Theo spun around like a top and thrust his sword into the monster. The monster screamed in pain and struck Theo with its claw, sending Theo tumbling backwards. Theo was coughing up blood and was very tired, but he was not going to give up. It's becoming difficult to stand on my feet, and the gas in the sword has run out. But the monster was not in the best condition either. Bubbles were bubbling from its mouth. The sun rose and the monster screamed, and all because the sun was scorching him. It jumped back into the water in panic. As soon as the monster ran away, Theo fell to his knees from exhaustion. There was no time to rest. Theo got up and went to Kana, and he helped her free herself. Kana asked if he killed the monster. Theo answered, no. He ate everything there was and left. Because the sun rose, Kana asked if he would return. Theo replied, who knows? And yet isn't she glad to face another day? Kana replied, not happy. Mom and Dad were eaten by this creature. As the sun rose, the harpooners of the Pusan Union swooped down on the ship. They didn't come to save them, but to take the relics. The freaks gave Kana treatment in exchange for the relics, and also gave her citizenship. Kana lost her family and her home. The harpooners were heroes to the residents of the Union, and people rejoiced at the relics. Nobody cared about the people who died to make it possible. For these people, refugees meant nothing. The officers called refugees simpletons. It was this guy who yesterday, having received a plea for help, refused them. The men laughed, saying the refugees had died and they had received the relics for free. Then Kana got upset and armed herself with a broken bottle. And she asked, they just waited until the monster killed them all. The man asked how it felt for the girl to obtain citizenship at the cost of her parents' lives. Kana attacked him, but the man hit the child and he crashed into the wall. And then he grabbed me by the throat and said that all refugees were just savages. And also, since she dared to attack the harpooner, which is a serious crime, they would throw her in jail. They could execute her on the spot if they wanted. They teach her their laws. Harpooners are justice, Kana laughed. And she said they were just pathetic cowards running away from battle. The truth apparently upset the harpooner and he kicked the child. 3 grown men began to rescue the little girl. Finally, a hero appeared and stopped the guy who was hitting Kana on the head. Theo really was some kind of superhuman. He was spinning like a top again, and the men flew in all directions and crashed into the walls. Then Theo asked what they were thinking when they beat the wounded child. The men asked why Theo was interfering in their affairs. Theo asked if this was their duty. The men shouted, exactly. Then Theo asked why he didn't show them what happens when they break the law. Seeing an adult man, the officers became scared and decided to run away. The main one decided to show off by saying that Theo was just a commoner. If Theo continues to behave like this, he will become fish food. What a cheeky guy. Theo asked if Kana was okay. Theo explained to Kana that this place was not much different from the refugee ships. The strong devour the weak. The difference is that she deals with people. She needs to become stronger if she wants to survive. Kana asked how she can become a harpooner. Theo was surprised that she wanted to become a harpooner. Kana said that he would do it even at the cost of his life. She would become a harpooner. And then she will kill every monster in this world. So Kana joined the harpooners. They made no distinction between commoners and the elite. She wanted to become a harpooner like Theo. And now, she thought, it was Theo who sent his children here for her to protect them. In the morning, the radio said that the Busan Alliance was protected. From typhoons and sea monsters, they, the chosen ones, must fulfill their duties. To make possible the revival of the Great Union of Busan, Bada ran to the warehouse and shouted something to the man, but he didn't hear. Then Boda shouted, he came for work. The man said it would be difficult. He is small. Their work is hard even for adults. Boda answered sadly. Okay. No one will give the kid a job. Boda was thinking where he could find a job. Bada continued asking people for work, but everyone refused him. Then Boda noticed a beggar. She was asking him to help her. Bada found a couple of nuts and gave them to his grandmother. That was all he had, and his grandmother thanked him. And Boda said that he doesn't have a job yet, so he can't give her much. But as soon as he finds a job, he will give more. Grandma said that he is a good boy. Then she took out the seeds and said that this was a sign of her gratitude. Bada thanked her, and now he felt much better. In the room, both accounted the nuts. They had already spent half of their money. But here they have to pay taxes, and if they can't pay, they'll be kicked out. Boda himself was not against paying taxes, but no one wants to give him a job. At this rate they won't last long. We'll have to cut down on the amount of food. Lita said directly that she was sad. Boda spent their money on some seeds. She screamed that she couldn't refuse food and wanted to ask Kip for help. And then Kip showed up and asked Botha if he had found a job. Bada said that everyone refused him. Then Kip thought and said, he'll have to use his influence. But it's dangerous work. Botha is sure of it. Bada replied, yes, they went down. The man was unhappy. A strong, healthy young man, that's what Kip said. Of course he was unhappy, but Kip praised Botha. Botha tried to tense every muscle he had, and Kip praised Botha. Kip assured the man that Botha was a natural-born mechanic. The men sighed and eventually agreed to give Botha a job. Kip said Botha must work hard. Botha shouted. Yes, Kip asked. What is the most important thing? Botha replied, money. Kip reminded that monsters are scary in the water. But the worst thing here is poverty. The Union protects from typhoons and monsters. However, it does not protect against poverty or illness. The man shouted, what is Botha waiting for? Get to work. They replaced old pipes with new ones. Botha hit the pipes with a hammer. Suddenly the pipe sprayed a stream of waste and Botha was covered in it. The blueprints didn't indicate that there were waste pipes here, so he ran to the boss with that. And they shouted, the pipes are lying in complete disarray, nothing fits together. And the boss said, they must make sure that they converge. Botha washed himself. And the boss said they couldn't find any parts that would fit. The boss, a veteran mechanic, has been working here for 40 years, and he knows a lot about the ship's history. Botha asked who built the ship. The boss replied, people before the flood. They were able to create ships much bigger than this one, but no one could prevent the comets from falling and the ice fragments from falling to the ground. After the comet collided with the moon, sea levels rose, and then people started to combine ships. Their ship was named Busan, in the hope that one day it would return to Busan. The man said this ship is older than the boss, so if they don't support it, he'll go down in no time. The boss said he's not old. Botha looked at the workers and thought, it was thanks to the hard work of these people. He and Lita can live in the Busan Union. He decided to work harder. Botha wanted to take care of the ship to keep it afloat. He wants to become one of them so that Lita and he can stay here. Botha noticed water under his feet, and suddenly a pipe nearby opened and water gushed inside. The man shouted. There was a backflow. The boss ran to them and asked what was going on, and the man explained that pipe 3 was clogged. Then the boss shouted, it needs to be cleaned out, but the man said pipe 3 is too deep inside, and they will have to remove all the other pipes, but by doing so the water will flow more strongly. The boss shouted how they could have installed them like that, and the pipe above started to rumble, and the water splashed at the boys. Nuts flew in all directions. They cut other pipes and they broke, and soon there was even more water. Meanwhile, Lita watered the seeds and cleaned the house. There was a knock on the door. Lita decided it was her brother. But it wasn't Botha, but some policeman. The man sat down and said, she must be Lita, a copy of her mother. Lita asked if they knew her mother. That thug said he was an old friend of her dad. It looked like Lita was in danger, and things weren't going so well down below either. The boss said that if the water reached the engine room, they were finished. So he decided to go to pipe 3. But the man said that the boss wouldn't succeed. It was impossible to get in there. With a body like the boss's then, Botha grabbed the tools and said he would do it. But the boss did not allow it. He said Botha would die. It was not something some rookie could handle. But no one except Botha could get through there, so he climbed into the water. Botha climbed into the pipe and swam along it, hoping to see the third pipe. But when he climbed out of that pipe, he saw many pipes. Botha was looking for the third one and noticed it. It was not connected to anything. And the men didn't know what to do. They couldn't just stand there. The boss came up with something, and Botha was already thinking whether he should return. He can't do anything when he suddenly notices that one of the pipes is ringing. These were the guys. They hit the pipe so that Botha would swim into this pipe. Botha realized that they were showing him the way and began to swim. He found an air pocket and swam out to get some air. Then he began to swim further. Botha needs to hurry. Finally, Botha found what he was looking for. The pipe was clogged with debris. Then Botha started hitting the trash and managed to free the pipe. But the flow of water increased, and Botha was unable to hold on to the pipe. The water began to recede. The guys were happy, not knowing that Botha had problems. After a little more time, the boss asked how much time had passed. The man replied, 8 minutes. The water completely disappeared. Then the boss asked why he hadn't returned yet. Maybe he was lost. 12 minutes passed. Botha was still alive, but he had swum too far. He couldn't breathe. Water filled his lungs and he began to lose consciousness. His heart was beating quietly. 18 minutes passed. The boss did not give up. He never stopped hitting the pipe for Botha. Others had already lost hope, the man said. 24 minutes. It's all over. The key fell out of the boss's hands and he said, it's impossible. They had already begun to mourn the baby, but Botha swam out of the pipe. Even though Botha looked like a zombie, he was still alive. The boss grabbed Botha and squeezed him tightly. Botha was underwater for 30 minutes. All the water spilled out of Botha's lungs. The boss started screaming. He thought Botha had died. Botha had found an air pocket. Botha replied, yes, he would have suffocated if it weren't for this pocket. The guys celebrated him as a hero. The boss patted Botha on the head. And he said, the main thing is that Botha remained safe, and offered to join them. Botha asked if he could work with them. The boss replied, of course. The man said they were short of workers after Mickey died. He got beaten up for this. The boss said he'll see him tomorrow. They raised their mugs to the newcomer. Boda was very proud of himself. Bada was glad that he could become part of the Busan Union. Now they could live here without worries. He ran home as fast as he could to tell Lita that he had found a job. But Lita was acting strange. She was too calm. Just as Boda was asking what had happened, Lita suddenly shouted, "Run!" But it was too late. The freak attacked Boda. The idiot said he got caught when he saw Boda's name. Theo's firstborn, he will never forget this name. The freak began to kick Boda in the stomach. So their father died fighting sea monsters. That's a shame. He wanted to kill him himself. Their father is a traitor. Lita ran up to her brother, and the coward said, "Welcome, spawn of a traitor. Coming back here on my own 2 feet is a bit shameless." Boda shouted, "Father is not a criminal. He was protecting people." The freak laughed and said, "The Leviathan Killer, a legend. Believes Theo made himself out to be a hero while they were traveling. Here's the secret their father never wanted Botha to hear. They said they had not met any people in the 10 years they had been at sea." Boda remembered how his dad said that the seas were simply huge. Their father was on the run from them. Botha shouted, "This is not true." The freak asked if Theo really thought they would all forget about him. "This is the killer who killed countless harpooners, and also incited revolution. Someone must pay for it. Let him blame his father." The freak's hand twisted and he grabbed Boda by the face. Lita was screaming, "Stop!" when suddenly the radio made a sound, all the harpooners' combat posts. "Emergency, monsters attack." Looking at these monsters, I want to panic myself. The ships were sailing towards the Union, but these monsters blocked their path. The creatures began to kill people. The military tried to kill the monsters, but it didn't work out. Monsters attacked the ship. There were also people on the lower deck. They were in danger. The monster tore through the deck and people began to run away in panic. A disgusting picture. Monsters tore people apart. Others realized that those people were finished and decided to sail away. They swam towards the Union of Busan, but the creatures swam after them. The sycophants said that they had to go too. Dan clicked his tongue and said he was going to make their lives hell. He slammed the door behind him, and the children were left alone. Bada understood that this man was dangerous, and they needed to get out of here. Kana was told that the squad was attacked by monsters, like eels. Each of the harpooners ran out and swam towards the ships. Bruce Kana ordered to cover the deck, everyone else to flank her. Then Bruce put on his iron gloves and jumped towards the monsters. Bruce struck the monster in the face, and one blow was enough to kill it. -1, Bruce quickly stood up and waved his fists. 5 monsters were killed. People began to thank Bruce for saving them, and Bruce asked them to move away, because it was still dangerous there. Suddenly slime appeared. Each blow to the monster caused the slime to flow out of their body. They start secreting slime. It looks like the monsters are trying to capsize the boat. Bruce shouted for people to run, but the slime kept growing, and they couldn't move, unlike the monsters. The man was already prepared for death, but Kana came to his aid. Kana told Bruce that she would distract the monsters, and he should protect the people. She took out the pheromones and decided to try them out. Kana broke one of the vials, and the monsters immediately headed towards her. The pipe thundered and children crawled out of it. But it got worse. They had to walk through these pipes. Lita jumped towards her brother, and Boda caught her. They were able to reach the balcony. Suddenly the boys heard people shouting Kana's name. Then they came up to look overboard. Kana swam closer and shouted. Now cannons appeared from the ship, and they burned all the monsters. The creatures screamed in pain. So Kana killed all the monsters. Boda realized that she was strong. People started chanting Kana's name. Boda and Lita watched them. Kana raised her sword, and then Boda thought, warriors. Having fought monsters to protect her city, Kana is like this. He remembered Dan, his father, who was called a killer. Now he didn't know who his father was. A warrior, a killer. Dan returned to Botha, but the children had already run away. He ordered his men to get them. Even if they had to kill them, Botha and Lita walked through the crowd. Boda was in a panic and didn't know where to go or how to hide. The guys heard a noise. People were whispering about something. Boda decided that the harpooners were looking for them, so he got scared and started running. He was dragging Lita along with him. He couldn't let them find them. Boda pulled Lita's hand hard. He was in a panic. Busan is big. But he and Lita had nowhere to go. Suddenly the children noticed a couple of harpooners, and they tried their best to act naturally. Suddenly the harpooners shouted, "Stop!" The children trembled and turned around. But they didn't say this to the children, but to the grandmother, who asked them to let her go. Boda remembered her and wondered why they were taking her away. Suddenly people said, "Poor woman, it looks like they're going to banish her." Boda asked where. The woman replied, "They would throw her out. They can also kill her. Many are eaten by monsters." The man offered to pay his grandmother's taxes this month. Others asked to let her go. She wouldn't last even a day. Then Dan appeared and asked what the noise was, and people immediately fell silent. And our children hid behind the adults' backs when they saw Dan. For some reason, Dan didn't like that the man was ready to help. Dan asked the man if he was trying to go against the laws. Who will pay her taxes next month? They are going to keep paying for it. People are frozen. How do they think the union will stay afloat if it is full of people without money? Who will take responsibility for her? Bada again remembered his father, who had spoken about the harpooners. The harpooners fought with the monsters, defending their cities, and thought, "Father is wrong. Harpooners do not protect people without money." He thought about what a harpooner his father was. The dad he knew was a good man. Grandma begged to give her time. All people grow old, so everyone has to be thrown away. Dan yelled at them not to go against the law of the Union. They are safe from storms and monsters thanks to the Union of Busan. Laws exist so that they can protect this place. People survive by helping each other, not that. It is not the place that needs to be protected, but the people. Dan ordered that Grandma be taken away. But then Boda shouted, let her go immediately, the brave little one." Granny saw Boda and told him to leave, but Boda is not a coward. He shouted. His father told him that the harpooners were warriors who protected people. But they hurt people. People watched the baby in shock. Boda screamed furiously. It can't be that the person who is trying to throw the grandmother into the water. He was a harpooner. Then Dan hit Botha. Dan said that Botha did not dare speak to him like that. He was a harpooner who had sworn allegiance to this ship. Who is he to argue with the ship's defender? Boda grabbed his leg and said, "Harpooners are not the ship's protectors." He saw it. The reason the ship stays afloat is because everyone works hard. And it is not because of the harpooners that Busan does not protect the people. People protect themselves. What kind of protector is he? Dan does nothing but hide on the ship. And he pretends to be an important person. But the truth upset Dan's fragile ego. He started kicking Boda on the head and shouting, "Rebellion must be in their blood." But Boda is not one to remain silent. He stood up and said that his father was a good man. There was no way Dad was a traitor. Dan was screaming that Theo was a killer. The little girl tried to protect her brother, but Dan hit her too. Seeing this, Botha got angry. He spun around like a top and Dan quickly fell. The brother was ready to protect his little sister. Dan was probably ready to burst into tears from humiliation, but they helped him up. And Dan stated that resistance and attack on the harpooner. This is his conclusion. Boda trembled. Granny begged to let the children go. But Dan fired. Fortunately, the children were saved again by Kana. Dan must have thought he was cool. He said she was crazy. Since he interferes with his boss, Kana replied that the children did nothing wrong. Dan replied that she had always had a kind heart for refugees. Kana looked coldly at the freak. Then he asked, she knew from the beginning, that these were Theo's children. Without receiving an answer, Dan attacked again. But Kana easily blocked the blow. Then the heroine attacked herself and he couldn't block it. A weakling could only fight with children and shout about his coolness. He couldn't stop Kana's punches, not even one, he said cheekily. She showed her true colors. Kana was arrested for treason. How stupid. After all, Kana is the savior of people, Dan stated. No matter how strong she is, there was no way she would defeat them all. But then the heroine took out a gun. What the losers didn't expect was that Kana started shooting. She shot at the wires and the lights went out. Dan ordered the exits to be closed. But in the darkness, all that could be heard were the blows and the bodies of the cowards falling. Kana led the children and Grandma. She told them to stay close to her. She dealt with these harpooners quickly and very easily, but Kana only hit them with a blunt edge, so none of them would die. Dan found the guys and ordered them to bring him harpoons. But Kana was not alone. Kip opened the door and told her and the children to run there. Then Kip asked if she understood what she had done. Kana replied that she had no choice. She left Grandma and said that there was money in the drawer of her room. Grandma thanked Kana and patted Batu on the head and said, she didn't know that Theo's children were alive. People began to shout that Theo had saved their lives. Kip said talking about Theo was illegal. They were all happy to help his children. Dan came running. Kana and the children ran away. Dan was already celebrating his victory. Suddenly, a pile of scrap metal blocked their path, and the man said that his hand had slipped. Dan yelled, "Stop blocking their way." Boda realized that people were helping them, which meant they didn't hate their father. But at that moment, arrows started flying at them and the children started screaming. Kana protected the children from the arrows with her body. Boat felt ashamed. He started crying and asked why she was doing this. Kana said he didn't need to be sorry. She was just paying back a debt. She remembered the conversation with Theo and repeated his words. The weak are devoured in this world. And if they want to survive, then they must become stronger, Boda replied. Okay. She heard footsteps and covered the children. Dan came and asked. She thought she could swim away from them. Kana asked Theo to herself. Had she been working herself to the bone all this time, as Theo thought? Is she strong enough to protect his children? The harpooners trembled with fear, and Dan asked what would happen now. Kana called the children and said that there was a crane behind them and a boat standing under it. They must leave this place on her. They must run. She would catch up with them later. Boda nodded and ran. There were 2 harpooners above. They wanted to shoot the children, but Kana threw her sword at them. Then she jumped up and cut the bridge. And then she ran forward. Dan ordered to shoot. He shouted that they would show the traitor what it meant to be a harpooner. Harpooners are those who fight monsters. Among them, only Kana kills monsters. Kana lifted a piece of the bridge and used it as a shield. Dan took out his sword and cut the piece of metal. But she was no longer there. He raised his head and saw that Kana was flying towards him. Kana managed to hit not only Dan, but the others as well. The other harpooners called her a monster, but Kana never killed anyone. Then Dan said proudly, she knocked them out. That's why it will never be good enough. That level of determination won't protect anything. Then Kana decided to fight them like monsters. Dan screamed, let's see how long she can go on. How much impudence there is in such a pathetic man. They crossed swords. Kana jumped back and Dan screamed, already tired. The idiot didn't expect that Kana would give him a bunch of cuts in a couple of seconds. He fell and Kana told him to get up. That level of skill wasn't capable of protecting anything. She threw Dan's own words back at him, which infuriated him, and the battle continued. The children ran to the boat and were about to go down into it. But before they could, 2 harpooners noticed the children. Without thinking twice, Boda picked up Lita in his arms and jumped out of the ship. The children fell right onto a bundle of boxes, and the harpooners shouted after them. The man insulted the children, then they began to mimic him. But a second later, the harpooner himself landed on the boxes. Then the man said he was just following orders. The beaten harpooners lay covered in blood. And Dan, all beaten up and without an arm, asked that she didn't want to kill him. Kana remained silent, and Dan burst out laughing. And he said that this is precisely why refugees should not be pitied. Such a useless emotion as pity does not allow us to give a healthy assessment of such bastards. But if you let those seeds germinate, they will cause chaos. And by the way, it was a mistake for her to send them alone. He had found out about the boat a long time ago. He sent people their way, so Theo's spawn should be dead by now. They finally managed to destroy the traitor and everything connected with him. Kana immediately ran to the children, and the pathetic worm laughed. But while the children were alive, Botha was able to evade the attacks. The man attacked Botha again, but Botha lifted the net and the man fell into the water. He swam out and started yelling that as soon as he caught them, he would kill them. The monster swam out and grabbed the man, and then he started screaming for help. The children saw that the monster was under their boat, and Kana had already jumped towards them. She stood up and said that she was glad that the children were safe, and the boys were also glad to see her. Botha said that there was a sea monster down there. Kana said that she would deal with it. Suddenly a cannon came out of the ship and fired fire, but they didn't shoot at the guys, but at their boat. Dan burst out laughing and asked if Kana had forgotten what he had already told her. She wouldn't run away from him, how he hated her presence on this ship. The crane rose and the harpooners took out their guns. Dan ordered to shoot, Kana protected the kids. The children and Kana fell into the water, Dan said joyfully. Finally, it's all over. 2 bright eyes illuminated the gloomy ocean. Something was approaching them. Luckily, it wasn't a monster, but a submarine. Kana's friends arrived. The spacesuit asked if burning the boat was part of the plan. Bruce replied, perhaps, because that's the only way Dan could think that Kana and the children were dead. It was all part of Kana's plan. 4 years later, the port oasis. Our baby has grown up. Now Boda is 17 years old. Boda jumped into the water and went deeper, then stopped. He thought they wouldn't believe him if he stooped too low. That should be just right. He swam into the apartment. He tried to get something, but a fish swam towards him. Then he decided that he could get dinner. Suddenly, a huge snake swam out of the toilet. This creature was poisonous. Boda suddenly descended and the snake bit the fish. Boda flew by with dinner, fangs. Even a small scratch will kill Boda. The snake turned its attention to Boda, and our hero was ready to attack. He was even glad. So that he could hone his skills, the monster attacked Boda. The man asked why the brat didn't rise. Finally, Botha swam out. The men complained, but Botha took both the snake and the fish on board. And they said, this is the one who bit his son on the leg. Botha took care of the pain in their hearts. Boda asked if they could now see his skill. The man told Boda not to act tough. They were checking his dive. The man asked for his license plate. Boda boasted that he had taken number 301, but suddenly realized that there was nothing there. Then the man started scolding Boda and shouting that he had failed. Suddenly the boys shouted, this is a great inheritance. Today's test is over. Team Jack found the inheritance. People ran forward. The boys gathered in front of the crane and lifted the box out of the water. Boda said it was just a box. The man said it was a treasure. This box contained medical supplies and clothes. A real legacy left by people 100 years ago for them. I wonder if there are any pads there. People opened the box and started dragging things out. The boss came and praised Jack, calling him a real adventurer. The boys hoped to find more treasure. The boss called Boda and asked how Boda's test was. The man teased Boda. and he promised to make sure that Boda was useful to their community. The chief said that Boda has grown so much since the first day he arrived here. Boda said they were always very grateful for their support. The boss laughed and said they don't reject outsiders. The port oasis was created from the ruins of many buildings that fell on top of each other. Therefore, treasures can be found in the nooks and crannies of the ruins. The oasis gets its supplies from the mines. Situated below it, the village is surrounded by walls of buildings, almost like a fortress. And the citizens live behind these walls in safety, and there are no monsters here. Rumors of a great inheritance spread, attracting refugees. This place does not discriminate against strangers. The boss welcomed them with open arms. The boss was glad to see strangers, suspiciously. But Botha didn't think so. He was just tired of Dan. And the ship he controlled, the port oasis, was completely different. This is a place for divers. Being a diver is the best way to survive here. Botha said he doesn't want to be a diver. He plans to be a harpooner. The man said that there weren't even any monsters here. Boda would die of hunger. Bada won't be able to survive on the harpooner's wages. There was a child who ran away saying that he would become a harpooner. I think his name was Bruce. Botha immediately remembered Kana's friend. Bada asked why Mao was still following him. Mao said that they should drink in honor of Boda's failure. Lita ran out of the house and greeted her brother. Mao also waved to her. Bada asked where Kana was. Lita replied that she hadn't seen her for a long time, and Mao became upset. Lita started teasing Mao, and Boda went home. He noticed a hot cup of tea. Kana attacked Boda, but he managed to dodge. Kana, she asked, is that all Boda can do? The door swung open and Mao shouted. He heard her voice. Kana fell down sharply and said sweetly, thank God he is here. Mao saw the rebar in Boda's hands and decided that Boda had dared to hit his sister. Boda shouted, everything is wrong. But Kana wanted to keep her skills a secret, so Botha had to remain silent. The divers reached a new building. They had never been here before. They decided to take the washing machine apart, when suddenly the rebar pierced the man. He was killed by some strange diver. This one was many times bigger than the guys. The spacesuit was broken. It killed the guys and dragged them somewhere. Thunder rumbled and Lita screamed. Kana said that it would all be over soon. Lita said she was scared and asked if she could sleep with Kana. Kana didn't answer. Lita jumped into her arms. Lita said sadly that her dad always hugged her before going to bed. Bada sharply told Lita to stop talking about his father. Lita surprised Kana by saying that Kana had become like a sister to her. Then Kana remembered her family again. From that day on, she wanted to forget about them, because it was too sad to think about. Still, Kane wondered what it would be like to have a family. It seems that Boda and Lita helped Kana feel like she had a family. In the morning, Botha and Kana went out, and Botha asked for more training. Botha said he can fight when necessary, but this is the place. Kana continued, too peacefully. Boda answered. Something like Kana asked, it's strange. Peacefulness is a problem. Boda wanted to know how strong he is. But this obsession of his can cause great harm to other people. Then Kana said there are harpooners who risk their lives to get more stars. Greed, vanity. These are the things that control them, and they are always the first to perish. And then Kana and Boda saw a crowd of people. Boda asked what was going on. Mao replied that it looked like he had been washed away during yesterday's storm. Disgusting creature, where did she come from? People remembered that the divers had not yet returned. Mao said they can't let it stay here. He offered to cut it, when suddenly the legs began to move. The people got scared and moved away. The chief calmly took the spear and killed the monster. Bada asked if it was a monster. The chief replied that there was no such thing in their village. Like monsters, they're just dead fish. Lita was at the house when suddenly a diver emerged. The diver rose and headed for the shore but fell. Then he took off his helmet. It was yesterday's diver, Lita shouted. Mr. Moore is fine. The diver was choking and coughing up blood. Lita screamed, someone call for help. She wanted to run, to call for help, but Moore grabbed her hand and said in horror, the monsters are here. Then he coughed again and died. People began to discuss what to do, how to live. Everyone was terrified. They were afraid, and they didn't know how to fight. The chief banged on the table and said, there are no monsters here. Then he said that this situation reminded him. People have gone silent about that incident 3 years ago. The divers then said that they were attacked by monsters, but they fought among themselves to become the contender for the inheritance. Some particularly greedy people killed each other, and in the past there was someone who spread rumors about monsters. The chief insisted that the two were killed by humans. Because of these rumors, they could not go underwater, and they cannot blindly believe Moore's words and close all exits. Bada said suddenly it was his attempt to warn them of danger. Lita screamed, it's true, Mr. Moore was scared. People started talking again, and suddenly Jack said that he himself would go down. He decided to go down and check if there were any monsters there. Lita asked what he would do if there were monsters there. Jack assured that there was nothing to worry about if they met monsters. They would kill them. They were former harpooners of the floating city. The girl's name was Sonia, and the man's name was Pak. Kana was still silent in the crowd. Bada looked out, and when he saw that they had no stars, he was upset. The chief was hiding something, but shouted that he hoped they would check if the oasis was safe. And of course Bota was restless and said that he would go too. The chief was unsure, but Botha assured him that he would not be dead weight for them. Jack agreed and told Botha to carry things. Sonia didn't mind either. Pak asked Sonia not to tease the poor guy, but Sonia did not listen to him. It seems that Sonia has a real crush on Bota. Does she know that he is only 17? Then the other divers said that they also wanted to take their friend's body. Jack didn't mind. He said they would leave tomorrow. In the morning, Bota took his father's sword and went to the shore. Lita did not want this. She asked him not to go there. There might be monsters there, Bota said. That's why he had to go. He can't pass up such a chance, Lita asked. A chance to die. Kana asked if Bota really wanted to go there. Bota nodded. Then she wished Bota good luck. Bota shouted that he would be back soon and ran away. Lita couldn't understand why Kana didn't stop him. Kana replied that she couldn't. Because Botha is carving out his own path in this world. He is already an adult and must make his own decisions and take responsibility for them. The ship was descending, and Sonia was still flirting with Botha. It seemed that this was the first time the girl flirted with Botha. He didn't understand why she was doing this, and suddenly wondered if this meant he was handsome. The man asked why such a stranger as he would go so far for them. Then Jack said that he once had a daughter, but she died of a fish plague when she was 6 years old. If they receive medicine, they will be able to stop the spread of the plague with its help. But for this, they need inheritances, so they cannot afford it. Destroy the entrance to the labyrinth. Suddenly the ship began to shake. That was the maximum. Where the submarine could pass. Then they got dressed and went out. The boys went out and Jack asked them to stick together so as not to get lost. Finding a person and confirming the presence of monsters is their task. The man upstairs said that the search party arrived in area D7. The chief was there too. The assistant whispered and asked what if they found that place. The chief answered, "No one has ever found that place, much less returned from there alive. And yet the guys came to that place. They found a diver's crowbar. It all started here." Jack suggested splitting into two, and looking around, he and Jen would take the northern side. Sonia and Botha will take the western side. The rest of the guys decided to check the perimeter. If they didn't find anything, they would move on. Then they decided to meet at the same place in 30 minutes. It was so dark that there was no difference between open and closed eyes. It feels like a monster could jump out of the darkness at any moment. The further you go, the more tense you become, just to let the monster jump out. He will tear the creature apart. Sonia noticed the sword and asked where Bota got it. The sword looks gray. She suggested giving Bota some accessories to decorate it, but Bota stopped her and asked if she heard. Sonia asked, his sweet voice. Bota spoke seriously. But Sonia said that she did not hear anything. Bota concentrated again, and he is sure that he hears the sound of dripping water. Sonia thought it was strange and asked if he was imagining it, since they were underwater. But Bota was confident and ran forward towards the sound. Soon they saw surface water and they got out. Then Bota asked, now she can hear they found that very place. They took off their spacesuits. There was fresh air. This place was huge. Just to think that this was hidden under the water, the guys began to explore the place. And soon they discovered that there were skeletons lying on the ground. Bota and Sonia were scared. They didn't understand where they had ended up, and why there were so many corpses there. The boys heard a crunch and turned around. A creepy diver was standing in the darkness. But Botha decided that it was a survivor and ran up to him. The creepy diver fell. Sonia reported that they found a survivor. The guys replied that they would come soon. Sonia said that they needed to give him first aid. But then the diver grabbed Botha by the face and then lifted him up. He threw it to the ground and then picked up the sword. The diver swung his sword, but Botha dodged. And he shouted what the hell was going on, and the diver attacked again. But Sonia wasn't going to just stand there. She cut the monster down with one swing. Botha was confused. He couldn't do anything, although he really wanted to test his skills. He asked what was going on here. Sonia decided that it was the diver who killed the others. But this is definitely not a human. Even cutting the monster won't kill it. The monster opened its mouth and prepared to eat Sonia. Finally, Botha got up and attacked the monster, and it released Sonia. Botha swung his sword and it flew at the monster and crashed into a pole. The boys looked at the monster. Sonia asked if it was really a monster. Botha realized that they had seen the same monster on land yesterday. And I remembered the calm face of the boss and wondered what was wrong here. Lita was working. She brought drinks and wished them a bon appetit. And she told them to call her if they needed anything. The men stared at the child for a bit too long. They were clearly having bad thoughts. Disgusting men stared and wondered how old she was. And Kana was chopping fish in the kitchen. She would have been better off chopping something for those men. The chef was intimidated by Kana's skills, even though he had been doing this for 20 years. It seemed that Kana had more experience. The chef asked what she did with the fish. Kana replied, she chopped it up, but the pieces were too thin. So the cook decided to take it upon himself and let her just help with the cooking. The chef hired her for her skills, but when it comes to cooking, Kana is a 0. Although maybe she will start to improve, the main thing is that the chef believes in her. But Kana almost burned down the entire building. The cook screamed hysterically. Suddenly they heard a noise. It was Lita. She dropped the food. The perverts ran up to the child and asked if she was okay. But the man banged on the table and said that their clumsy employee had dirtied his shoes. Lita and the cook asked for forgiveness. This man was a pirate. Kana came out and apologized, saying that she would clean his shoes right away. But the pervert grabbed Kana and said that they would rather drink. Bad idea, because Kana can turn him into sashimi in a second. The cook asked the man to stop, and Lita was afraid that Kana would kill him. Then Mao stood up and told him to take his hands off her. How dare he touch his Kana? Since when did Kana become his? The man sent Mao, but Mao ordered him to keep his mouth shut. Then the man stood up and told Mao to repeat what he had said. Mao was quite scared, but the other men shouted at Mao to hit him. It was too late to retreat. Mao decided to attack him, but this amused the boar. He decided to hit Mao, but Kana sharply hit him with a fork. This distracted him and allowed Mao to hit the man. Then Kana hit him in the leg and he stumbled. He hit his head on the table and lost consciousness. The stupid men decided that it was their merit. Mao burst out laughing, and he began to shout that he was strong, and now Kana was under his protection. But Kana wasn't there. She had already left. Lita apologized to Kana and explained that she could not work. She was worried about Bot. Then Kana stroked Lita's head. She says there is no need to push herself. She is sure Boda is fine. He trained all this time. He worked a lot, without resting a single day. She knows better than anyone else. That Boda had a talent that surpassed anyone else. Boda stood by the monster. His heart was pounding. He was proud that he was able to defeat the monster. It gave him confidence after all. He trained with Kana. Now his goal of killing the Leviathans is achievable. Jack and the others looked at the creature and the human skulls. Pak asked if Boda really killed him. For some reason, Pak found it hard to believe that the boy had killed this monster. Jack asked Sonia if this creature was alone. Sonia replied that she herself did not know, and she pointed out where it came from. And although Jack was afraid, he decided to check the tunnel. The group went there. They still didn't know about this place. Jack said it couldn't have appeared without a reason. What made Botha nervous was that the tunnel was huge. These creatures are under the guy's feet, Boda noticed one. But the boys shouted that there were great inheritances here and he turned around. There were indeed a lot of boxes. Jack and the man decided to open them. But every box had already been opened and empty. Sonia called the boys. They came and froze. When they saw the whole mountain of inheritance, most of it was untouched. Apparently this place was once a shelter built by people before the flood. The shelter itself remained untouched all this time. Probably all the boxes that the guys found floated from here while the guys were rejoicing. Bada fell silent. He looked around the space and finally saw it. There were a lot of monsters. The ceiling was filled with these creatures. Without taking his eyes off the boys, Boda told them to get their weapons. Finally the boys looked up and saw this horror. All the divers that the locals thought were missing were here. Then Boda remembered that incident and said that he had seen something similar. It was a nest of monsters. The guys panicked, but Jack said the monsters were still sleeping. So they can get out of here. They ran back. Boda thought it couldn't be that no one knew about this. Suddenly the boys saw that one of the monsters had woken up and was dragging a box on himself. But the monster didn't pay attention to the boys. The monsters are weird. They're too fixated on people, just like the Titans. One of the boys stepped on the monster's tentacle and it grabbed him. Before the guys could react, the monster had already swallowed the guy. But it seems that this was not enough for him. It decided to attack again. The boys shot at him, but their arrows were useless. The monster was already right in front of them. Then Pot used the bat. He hit the monster and it rolled backwards, emitting a vile squeal. The monsters on the ceiling screamed in response. The creatures woke up. They started falling from the ceiling right on the guys. Now they are surrounded. The creatures writhed. Boda broke out in a cold sweat, but he made up his mind. He's not that scared kid anymore. He can fight. The others are also ready to fight, but there are too many of these creatures. There was no time to think about it. Their lives were at stake. They split up, Sonia and Pak working together, Jack with the man, but even so, it was difficult to resist these creatures. The monster grabbed Pak, and he dragged it into his mouth. Then Boda swung his sword and cut the creature to pieces. When the creature spat out Pak, Boda chopped the monster into pieces. And not only that monster, he cut down several monsters at once. Compared to Kana, these creatures were slow, which made Boda's job easier. Botu was incredibly angry that these monsters thought of people as food. He wanted to kill the monsters. This is his revenge, and he is ready to do anything for it. The guys stood to the side and couldn't believe their eyes. so our little one killed almost everyone, and the guys still couldn't come to their senses. Only top harpooners are able to use the gas sword. The man praised Bota and asked why Bota hid his strength. But you can admire him at other times. Now it's more important to run away. But they didn't manage to run far. The wall began to collapse. And then a huge monster appeared. It was their mother. This is Genod, one of the 7 sea devils. The guys killed her children. The creature became angry and swung its tentacles, breaking the walls. And the water arrived. The guys quickly put on their helmets. A huge box was rapidly floating towards Sonya. She tried to run away from it. But the box hit her, and the oxygen tank floated away. Bota grabbed her hand. The monster noticed them and decided to have a snack on them. Bota started his sword and they swam forward. The monster pursued them. Sonya attacked it as best she could. Bota was swimming towards a narrow tunnel when suddenly the monster spat liquid at them. The liquid corroded the metal on Bota's oxygen tank, causing it to explode. The guys managed to swim into the tunnel and the monster seemed to decide to retreat. Sonya saw the devil for the first time and was amazed by the size of the monster. Bota again remembered that day when his parent went out during the day. Since neither of them had any cylinders, they decided to stop chatting. But Sonya was already feeling ill. She only had oxygen left in her helmet. There should be air at the end of the tunnel. Bota asked not to create a condensation of atmosphere. He could hold his breath for a long time, but Sonya could not. Suddenly they noticed the body of a diver in front of them. It was Jack. Sonya tried to take him, but Bota pulled her forward. There was little time, but Sonya was in a panic. So Sonya lost consciousness. Bota called her. She did not answer. Paku managed to get out, but he couldn't move. He looked at the sign. It said, living area. The current must have pulled him here. Pak hoped everyone was safe. It was hard to breathe. Sonya slowly opened her eyes, but she immediately closed it. She decided that it was all over for her. Suddenly she realized that she was breathing again. Bota had saved her. He didn't have a cylinder either, and Sonya couldn't understand how he could save her. Upstairs, the cook prepared the fish and told the girls to eat. The girls tried it and said that the dish was very tasty. The chef laughed. And he shared that his son liked baked fish, however. His son went missing while exploring the labyrinth. When he prepares this dish, he can almost imagine his son walking through that door. Just like always, the son sat down and said that he loved his dad's food. Lita started crying and the cook said she needed to eat. To cheer herself up, Lita began to devour the fish. Below, the guys managed to get out to the top, but there was almost no air left. Sonya, still in shock, asked if he could breathe underwater. Bota explained that he could simply stay underwater longer than others. Then Sonya asked how long he could go without air. Bota answered, 40 minutes. Bota found out about this when he got stuck in the pipes. Sonya asked, "So Bota is a dolphin?" Bota suggested to talk about it later. I needed to get out, but Sonya explained that it would take 20 minutes to get back. Bota said he would share the air. They took a breath, closed their helmets and began to swim back. The man said that the submarine's commander was not responding. The boss said, "So everything was decided?" the assistant asked. He didn't worry, because panic would start, the chief replied. Not at all. Genod ate 6 people, so everything will be quiet. Another 6 months, that's enough. So that people forget about them, so there is nothing to worry about. But he didn't know that Sonya and Bota were alive. Sonya's breathing became ragged again. Bota wanted to help again. But this time Sonya took the initiative. Sonya put on her helmet and began to swim forward, and Bota's heart was beating wildly. Now he was thinking about something else, looking at Sonya. It seems that Bota now realized that it was a kiss. He completely forgot about Sonya, who was suffocating, so she had to take matters into her own hands again. Suddenly some submarines swam up. Bota and Sonya were saved. The guys came in, and the man said they were lucky that he decided to come back. He asked if they had seen Jack or Pak. Botha said that Jack was dead, having learned that Pa was still missing. Sonya decided to go back, but the man was against it. They had to get out of here. Before the sun sets, let's talk about monsters. Sonya didn't back down. She said that they couldn't leave Pak. But the man said this creature uses the inheritance as bait. To him, they were like food in a store, and he was not wrong about that. They had just emerged from the tunnel when the monster appeared right in front of them. Still, this intelligent creature apparently understood that they were going up. The boat was moving at high speed, but the monster's tentacles were faster. The creature dragged the boat and stared at the boys. The guys urgently needed to come up with something, otherwise they would be finished. The monster began to shake the boat like a ball, and then threw it. It decided to take revenge instead of eating the boys. The monster decided to make fun of them. He drove their boat into the wall. The boat began to fill with water. The monster looked at them. People were living above, but the monster emerged. Although the sun can roast him, people started to run away, but the monster grabbed them, and he put them in his mouth. People couldn't do anything. Other people were trembling with fear, not knowing what to do. The creature grabbed the house and threw people into its mouth. In another part of the village, people heard a noise. Lita pointed to the houses. The monster's tentacles shot up, and the people realized that they were being attacked by a monster. Mao and his friends decided they could handle him with their toothpicks. Kana tried to warn them that the monster could not be defeated that way, but Mao didn't listen and ran forward. Kana told Lita to run to safety. Lita ran away. Kana knew it was a Genod, one of the 7 sea devils. The man ran to the chief and shouted that a monster had attacked the village. The boss hid his trinkets and ran out onto the balcony, where he saw Genod. Then the boss realized that it was somehow connected with the guys. The man asked the boss to give an order, but the boss pushed him away. He took his toys and ran away. The man asked where he was going. The chief replied that if Genod was here, then it was all over. The sun was beating down on the monster, but he was not going to turn back. Kana said she needed a weapon with a long blade, but Mao spoke. If they can handle it themselves, he can be praised for his courage. But they should listen to Kanu. The harpoon is useless against the monster. The monster climbed into the water, and people threw their harpoons at it. People thought the monster had retreated, but it simply picked up speed. The monster attacked people, destroyed houses, and killed them along the way. Mao tried to attack the monster, but the monster hit him, and his friend was killed. The monster chopped up people. Mao didn't even scream. He was trembling. He realized that he could not defeat this monster, and he was sure that a man could not defeat him. Mao was dragged into the mouth. Kana took out her weapon and attacked the monster. The monster let go of Mao. He fell, and Kana fought the devil alone. Kana tied the rope to the harpoon and slid down. Having made a huge cut, the men stood aside. Kana asked for weapons, and Mao obediently gave her the knives. This weapon won't work. The blades are too short. But Kana doesn't have a chance to go home for a weapon. Kana ordered the men to evacuate the residence. The monster depends on the shadows, those who know how to fight. Let them fight him only in the light, the men answered in chorus. That's right. The monster was furious. He pulled Kana's spear out of his body and threw it to the side. Kana deliberately hid her identity. To prevent Busan from finding them, she thought she could protect the children here. She watched Botha grow up. And as Lita grew up over the course of 4 years, she had fun with them. Every day was precious to her. She didn't want it to end. And perhaps because of these happy days, she turned a blind eye to all the warning signs. She needs to remember that monsters are everywhere in their world, and that there is no such thing as a sea without monsters. She reminded herself of her promise. Kill all the monsters in this world. Harpooners protect people, and they risk their lives to protect their homes. The boys woke up and swam upward, unaware of the chaos. They decided that they were safe, but to their horror, they saw a destroyed village. Botha didn't expect the monster to emerge in broad daylight. He was afraid for his family and ran, but heard a child crying. The man took the baby in his arms. His father was dead. Seeing the corpses, Botha became angry and grabbed his weapon, running away. Silently, he prayed that Kana and Lita were okay, and Kana continued to fight heroically alone. The monster couldn't grab her, even though it had plenty of tentacles. Although Kana was doing well, the weapon began to crumble. The people on the tower threw spears, but the monster destroyed the tower. Kana screamed to get the monster's attention, and the monster spat out its goo. The liquid ate away the skin on Kana's arm, but she still fought. The monster hit Kanu. She flew back, breaking everything in her path. Her body was at its limit. The knives were broken, and yet she did not give up. She asked herself to get up. The monster opened its mouth, when suddenly he was attacked. Botha shot at the monster. If only Kane had a weapon like that. Despite her condition, Kana stood up and Botha threw her his sword. In just a couple of seconds, she inflicted a ton of cuts on the monster. She lit up. Kana quickly cut off the monster's tentacles. Then she cut the creature's face, and the monster began to destroy everything. He became furious and decided to run away. Botha ran after him. Kana told Botha to lead the monster to the water. They must keep the people safe. People ran to the tallest building. Lita ran with them but looked back, worried about Kanu. A man ran up from the left and shouted at people to run. The monster ran there. Because there was a shadow, Botha shot at him. Hoping to attract attention, the monster decided to eat 2 children. Lita had saved them, but now she was in danger. The creature grabbed Lita and put her in its mouth. Botha ran away. And he screamed Lita's name, but the creature swallowed her. But Botha was not going to give up. He was ready to save his sister. He is ready to do anything to save her. The monster ran into the water. Throwing buildings aside in its path, one of the buildings fell directly on Botha. Botha lost consciousness. He returned to the day Lita was born. Her mother named her Lita, and when she was born, the baby cried like that. As if she wanted to attract the attention of all the monsters, Botha asked her mother to shut her up. Mom handed Lita to Botha. She smiled and Botha was happy. Botha wanted to tell his mother about this, but he saw his father in tears. On the same day that mother gave birth to Lita, she left them. There's an apocalypse here, and a woman's chances of surviving childbirth are slim. Lita smiled, but Botha was no longer happy about it. Dad asked Botha to look after her. While he was hunting, Boda was angry with Lita, so he refused. Dad explained that there was no one else but Boda. He promised to return quickly, and Botha needed to look after her while he was gone. Dad said he was counting on Botha and jumped into the water. Boda hated his sister because she took his mother away from him. The baby didn't understand that his mother didn't have a chance anyway. He believed that his mother would be alive if it weren't for Lita. Boda watched Lita walk to the edge and thought that she wouldn't be there. Dad finally returned, but there was no one on the ship. He got scared and went down. There he saw his babies, a fragile and sweet little sister, in whom there is a piece of his mother. So for Boda, she became the closest person. And now he has lost his sister. Boda quietly said his sister's name. He realized where he was and what had happened and jumped up abruptly. Boda got up and barely made it out. Sonia tried to stop him, but Botha thought, all the confidence he had gained. During her endless training with Kana, she made him believe that he had become stronger, and he always wanted to see for himself how much stronger he had become. Lita complained that everyone in the village was avoiding her. He remembered complaining to Kane about peaceful life. He remembered Kana's look and her questions. Then he believed that he was strong. He thought he was ready, but when he saw the devil, frozen, just like 12 years ago, paralyzed by fear. How can one say after this that he has become stronger? Boda raised his head. Kana stood in front of him. She wanted to say something to Boda, but he burst into tears and said he couldn't protect Lita. He fell to the ground and cried. Kana thrust her sword into the ground and said they must kill the monster. People were trying to live after the horror, when suddenly they said on the radio, "There is no need to lose hope. He, as the leader, will be with them until the end." People listened to him, and the leader's speech made them cry. They hugged him and thanked him, not knowing that he was a traitor. Boda and Kana came and the chef thanked them. But as soon as Boda saw the boss, he hit him. The chief fell to the ground and people ran up to him. And then they grabbed Boda and shouted at him about what he was doing. Boda shouted. The chief knew about it from the very beginning. People were perplexed that Genod was right under their noses, and they asked Boda to explain everything. But the old man decided to play the victim. He said Botha was looking for someone he could blame for the loss of his sister. "But this is the first time he met that monster," Boda screamed. "Liar! All the missing divers are in the nest." The chief fed them to the monster. But the boss was acting and shouting, how can he feed people to a monster? And how was he supposed to know that there was a monster lurking underneath them? He shouted that he didn't know anything, and that he felt so sorry for the divers. Then he promised to change the oasis for the better, and people believed him. They calmed the boss down and told Botha to stop blaming the boss. Suddenly the radio beeped, and then the chief's voice sounded. Genod ate 6 people, so it will be quiet for now. 6 months is enough for people to forget about the threat. The chief realized that he was finished. People surrounded him. It was Mao. The assistant repeated that the boss did all this. He would never do that. He asked for his life to be spared. Many strangers come to this place. His job is to transmit messages. The leader gives the coordinates to those he chooses. Mao couldn't believe it, so he told his assistant to repeat it all. The man replied that the boss was choosing who to feed to Genod, and then took their money. Boda recalled how the boss greeted them joyfully and watched them train. And I understood why. People got angry and started shouting. They asked about their loved ones, whether he sent them there. Is this true? The boss paused for a moment and then asked, what if it is? Boda got angry and grabbed him by the collar, calling him shameless. The chief asked if any of them thought the place was strange. A place without monsters, a peaceful village. How can such a place exist? There are no monsters here because this is Genod's territory. They could dive for treasure thanks to Genod. What will they choose? To live a quiet life or to live in fear? The boss said they wouldn't have survived if it weren't for him. He screamed, that's how they all lived. But the cook asked the chef what the chef was talking about. He couldn't accept that, according to the boss, he had sold his son, for the sake of 6 months of peaceful life, for his boy. He was only 19, and the residents were moved to tears. Every second in this world without his boy is pure hell. Others shouted that their loved ones were good people. The chief shouted, the sacrifices were for the good of the village. They should all be grateful to him. People got angry and threw stones at the boss. Then they started beating with sticks. The people's anger is the worst of all. The chief crawled to Botha and asked him to save him. But Botha said the divers were deceived. They also wanted to live, but they all would never return home. The chief said that he was wrong and asked Kanu to help him. Kana told him, instead of using people, for the sake of inheritance, and sacrifice lives, couldn't he think of another way? The real monster in this place is him. People started beating him. The chief shouted, they are still alive. Those who were kidnapped by Genod could be alive, Boda asked. What does this mean? The chief replied. Genod does not eat the prey. They end up in the nest. If luck was on their side and they were alive, Boda immediately thought of Lita. The thought that Lita might still be alive gave him hope. Everyone asked if it was true. They saw how Genod ate them. They demanded answers. Kana asked how he knew this. The chief said that he was the first person to get out alive. He was a resident of the Hong Kong Trade Union. The typhoon drove them here. By working together, they were able to rebuild and establish a village here. Until one day they were attacked. When he woke up, he realized that they were in a nest. The monster doesn't eat them, it lays eggs in them. It also has a breeding site somewhere inside the shelter. This means there might still be survivors down there. Bada grabbed the chief and shouted where this place was. The chief stated, "He will tell if they let him go." Bada hit him. Kana said he was in no position to demand, he would go with them. They recruited volunteers as Kana had requested. They brought everything that might be useful. Mao asked if it was enough. Kana answered, "Quite." The man showed Kana the torpedo. The engineers put their hearts into it, and they hope it will help Kana. The woman called Boda and showed her the harpoons she had made from a poisonous snake. There are enough of them to knock out a whale. Everyone tried to give the guys something to help. The woman asked Boda to save her husband. Boda promised to do everything possible. People asked to save their loved ones and apologized that they could not go with them. The guys went down into the water, and the chief spoke, fishermen and mechanics. They think they can defeat Genod with this hodgepodge. The men replied that they still did not plan to return alive. All they want is the death of the monster. He will take revenge. The man's speech did not impress the boss, and he called them fools. Bada reminded him that not everyone is a coward like the boss. He has no right to look down on a brave man. The chief was frightened by Botu and fell silent. Sonia thought the boss was right to go to the monster's nest with the newcomers. Suicide, and we're not even talking about an ordinary monster here, but the devil. The only ones who have combat experience are her, Boda and Kana. Sonia looked at the tattoo and thought, Kana is younger, but has 3 stars. But how does Kana plan to deal with Genod using this ballast? And can she be trusted? Kana asked Boda to calm down. She stroked his head, and for some reason Sonia didn't like it. As they descended lower, Sonia hit Kana on the head. In the monster's nest, Genod spat out the people. The boys stopped in front of the hole. The boss said it was a nest. The hole was deep. The end was not even visible. Kana asked if the lift was ready. Mao said yes, and Kana said we could move out. They lit a firecracker and threw it down. There was a surprise waiting for them. The hole was filled with monsters. The monster swallowed the diver, but it was a trap. It was not a diver, but a bomb after it exploded. All the monsters decided to swim to the surface. But another trap awaited them there. The monsters emerged at high speed. They were cut into pieces, all thanks to the wire. But there are a lot of monsters. They tore the wire. Then Kana took out a firecracker and blew it up. The chief shouted that Kana wanted them to be surrounded. Kana replied, "That's right." Kana decided to make them bait. The net grabbed the monsters, and the guys started shooting at them. So the guys managed to catch every monster. They began to rejoice that everything was going according to their plan. And the boss complained that they didn't warn him. Sonia couldn't believe they had succeeded, she thought. They destroyed them without losing anyone. The guys could go down, there in the nest. People woke up. Lita asked where they were. The last thing Lita remembered was being swallowed by the monster. Everyone thought they were dead, but then they opened their eyes and woke up here. They said it was time to get out of here while the monster was gone. Suddenly they heard a hum and saw a tentacle. It rushed past Lita and grabbed the woman. Lita tried to help, but the monster was too fast. People screamed. 3 more monsters, or rather tentacles, rose from the water. People were running in all directions. The boy was calling for his mother. Lita ran up to him and covered his mouth. Suddenly there was silence. They opened their eyes and saw it. On the back of this monster were bags, and inside them were people. They turned into monsters, but it wasn't Genod. Having gathered enough people, the monster descended. The boys walked through the labyrinth to the nest. Mao asked if the chief was sure they were going in the right direction. The boss snapped back. If he doesn't trust him, let him look for it himself. Suddenly Boda noticed the mark he had placed earlier. The guys were shouting, "The bastard is doing this on purpose," but the boss was shouting, "No. It's not his fault that he doesn't remember anything. He was busy saving his life at the time." They could still walk, but the boys were unhappy. And they shouted, "What does he think? Now they will believe him." Sonia asked Kana what they were going to do, but the man noticed something. A shark emerged from the water and attacked the boss, biting him on the leg. The boys shot at him, but without success. Then Botha and Kana cut him down. The boss started shouting that his leg hurt. There was not just one monster shark, but several at once. The guys started shooting again, but they couldn't handle them. Bada and Kana got to work and easily cut up the sharks. Sonia also attacked, and the 3 of them quickly killed these monsters. But one of them grabbed Sonia by the throat, but the door closed. Having cut off the shark's tentacles, the boys froze. The door closed by itself. Kana asked who did it. The boys were silent, but when they turned around they saw children. Bada asked if they were the ones who closed the door. The child answered, "Yes." Then he asked if they were from the outside world, like Mr. Park. Hearing Park's name, Sonia screamed, "He's alive!" The children whispered, His girlfriend Sonia quickly said, "No." The boy said that they were waiting for them and asked to follow them. Kana agreed they were lost anyway, and the people in the nest fell into despair again, because they thought they were lucky to survive. Lita promised that they would come for them soon, but the man said, "Nonsense, no one will come." They were all finished, and then Lita began to wonder if Kana and Boda had really given up, the day when a whole pack of monsters attacked them. Then she felt the same despair as Botha, but he fought, and Boda did not give up. She noticed the reinforcement and thought about it. Suddenly people started screaming, the monster came, and Lita armed herself. People were screaming, Lita was shaking, but the child clung to her. She decided that even if she died, she would die fighting for her life. The monster grabbed her, then Lita stabbed him, but the creature slammed Lita to the ground and she lost consciousness. Lit's action gave people hope and strength to fight again. The man was captured, but people came to his aid. People no longer sat helplessly, they fought. And all thanks to Lita, she helped them not to lose heart. Everyone armed themselves and was ready to fight back against the monster. The kid protected Lita, who still hadn't come to her senses. Now the monster has to try hard to kill them. Everyone understood that this could be their last day, but they are ready to cause problems for this monster. And the boys were still following the children. There they noticed the inheritance. They approached the door and the boy opened it. Behind the door they saw a bunch of machines, the same ones they use. Another door swung open and the guys saw a man. He had a real weapon. Kana asked who he was. The old man replied that he was the caretaker of this shelter. His name was Ten. These are the madamada shelters, and these 3 are the last survivors. And the guys are the first guests in the last 100 years. Tenu was curious about where the boys came from, and what the outside world was like. He asked if they were from the earth. What happened to the earth? Kana did not know what the earth was. Kana knew only about the concrete islands, but they didn't know about the creatures. Mao declared that there is no such thing as land. The world is filled with water. Kana confirmed Mao's words. There is no land, there is only water. The man collapsed in grief upon learning that they were still underwater. The chief asked if they had experienced a great dive while here. Sonia shouted, "Where is Pak?" Then the girl opened the curtain. He lost a lot of blood, but is now stable. The fracture was not severe. Bada exhaled and hoped that everything was okay with Lita too. Sonia really wanted Pak to wake up now, but her methods weren't the best. Kana explained the reason why they came down here, and she asked if Ten by any chance knew where Genod's nest was. Ten knew where the nest was, but he didn't understand how they intended to kill him. He also knew that they came here for these people. Bada and Kana immediately noticed Lita. They were all alive, they shouted. A weight fell off Boda's shoulders. He wanted to save his sister as soon as possible. Ten said that if they were here to kill the monster, he would help. Later, the guys freed the submarines and decided to return. But it didn't work out. Genod appeared, with a net of his dead cubs. Genod screamed in rage and attacked the boys in the boat. Everyone followed Ten, and he told them that this city was on land. But because of the downpour, their ancestors began to prepare for the worst, by building the city on a high hill, so that the underground city would stand for some time. Even when the top is flooded, they began to live here and dream that they would see the sky again. But suddenly everything changed when Genod came. Even though they tried to fight, it wasn't enough. Most of the ammunition became unusable, it became damp. And in one instant, what was once paradise turned into hell for people. Many died because of Genod, every time they went for supplies. Then they lost more and more people, and the creature realized that the supplies could be used as bait. They opened a hunt for them. Ten asked if they were sure they could kill Genod. Mao shouted, "Of course. After all, Kana is with them." The girl warned that she was opening the door. Bada was worried and asked Noah to show him a shortcut. Noah said that by following this path they would quickly reach the nest. But everyone froze when they saw their submarines on the bridge. The boys were dying. They were wrapped in the same net that they had prepared for the monsters. The man tried to free them, but one barely managed to say, "Save yourselves." Kana shouted for everyone to get back, but it was too late. Genod had arrived. The monster attacked and the bridge collapsed under its weight. Genod fell, taking Kana and Bota with them. The boys were also in for an unpleasant surprise. Genod's children, along with the monster sharks, attacked them. Bota asked where Kana was. She answered, "Somewhere at the bottom," and asked, "Where are the others?" Bota answered, "They are somewhere up there. He is here with Noah." Bota wanted to go down to Kana, but she told him to follow Lita. They don't have time. She can handle it herself. Bota didn't want to leave her. But Kana is right. There is no time. So Bota asked Noah to show the way. It wasn't for nothing that Kana forbade Bota from going down. Genod was next to her. Genod was destroying the bridge, but Kana was already running towards him with swords. She hated this creature that had kidnapped Lita before her eyes. Her Lita, and for this, she is ready to tear Genod to pieces. Kana fought this monster one-on-one. Genod managed to hit Kana and she slammed into the wall. The monster struck again. But he can't kill Kanu so easily, she is incredibly strong. She cut its tentacles into slices and the creature fell down. Out of desperation, the creature began to spit its liquid at Kana. Kana avoided the muck and cut the bridge. Then she hit the piece of the bridge. Bridge thrust into the monster with all his might, and then Kana herself attacked the creature. The creature screamed in pain, then Kana chopped off its pathetic head. As promised, Kana cut the creature down. She is a heroine. Kana was going upstairs when suddenly someone extended a hand to her. It was Pak. He finally woke up and asked where the others were. And the rest were in ambush. A bunch of monsters attacked them from all sides. They tried their best, and at least they succeeded a little. They could use some help, because there's no end to the monsters. Unfortunately, one guy was eaten by the monster right in front of Mao. The boss escalated the situation with his complaints and shouting. Sonya told him to shut up and swung her sword right in front of him. She advised them to help them instead of whining, but the boss sent everyone away. And he decided to just run away, leaving the guys behind. He ran to the door. Suddenly it opened itself, and Jacko was standing behind it. Which was strange because he died, but Sonya was too happy to think about it. And the boss scolded Jack and blamed him for everything. He blamed Jacko for Genod's attack on the village. Jacko began to twitch strangely. Of course, Jacko did not survive, but turned into one of the monsters. He pounced on the boss and bit him on the throat, blood spurting in all directions. Soon the chief's legs stopped twitching, and he himself became silent forever. And the guys froze in shock and didn't know what to do. Ten explained that he was infected, and no longer the man they knew. It was hard for Sonya to accept this, because Jack accepted her into the team. He wanted to find a cure and save people from the fish plague. Sonya reminded that she was a mercenary, and her work was not cheap. Jack promised that she and Pa could take anything they found during their dives. And he's willing to bet that Jack threw something to Sonya and she caught it. It was a keychain, a memento of his daughter, and he gave it to Sonya. But Jack wanted to change this world, and he wanted Sonya to be with them. And that's what happened to him. Sonya couldn't accept that Jack was no longer there. She called him and said, he remembers her, right? Mao tried to stop her, but Sonya brushed his hand aside and continued shouting at Jack that they wanted to find a cure together that would save people. Suddenly, Jack began to scream madly and tremble even more violently. Suddenly, he was torn apart. He finally turned into a monster. And he attacked Sonya, bit her right on the arm, and now she is infected too. Kana appeared and immediately began to chop down the monster. Pak also wanted to kill the monster, but Sonya stopped him. She still hoped that Jack was alive or could be saved. Then Pak froze when he saw Jack's face, but not Kan's. She continued to chop at him, but then Pak stopped her. Pak asked Kana to give them a minute, but she punched him and ran towards the monster. Kana attacked the monster again, but she was stopped again, this time by Sonya. Sonya continued to insist that it was not a monster, but Jack. But Kana understood that this was not so, and yet Sonya did not let her go. She begged Kana to leave Jack, even in this state. Then the monster attacked the girls again. Sonya asked him not to do it, and Kana moved from words to action. She instantly cut the monster into pieces. Sonya looked at this in horror, remembering their conversation. She didn't understand why Jack was doing all this, since he wasn't getting any benefit. After all, his daughter had already died. So why look for a cure, Jack explained. What he wants to say is that he never forgot about her when he met her. Sonya sat down next to Jack and said that she hoped he had met his daughter. Closing his eyes, she added that he could be proud of himself. And Ten said that, as he understands it, no one cares about this man's death. The guys replied that he deserved it, and Kana asked to heal the wounds. After all, they will go to Botha and the people. The people were in despair. The man chose suicide rather than become a monster. But the monster immediately caught him, and then the man got angry and screamed. Can't he even die peacefully, the vile creature? The monster swung it, but Botha finally appeared. He cut the tentacle and saved the man. The people rose up, and she began to shout his name. Then Noah lit the way and shouted, "Here." People immediately jumped into the water and swam towards the exit. Botha asked where Lita was. Suddenly the man darkened and Botha understood everything. He found his sister, but she was inside the monster. Botha didn't give up. He immediately freed Lita, but the monster looked at him. He grabbed Botha sharply and dragged her away, and Lita was again thrust into the trap. The monster slammed Botha to the ground so hard that the concrete cracked. But Botha was no pushover. He grabbed his sword and stood up. He was no longer afraid. All he could think about was his sister. Screaming about what the creature had done to his sister, Botha cut off the tentacle. He was so angry that he was ready to fight this creature alone. Botha turned on his sword and made a huge cut on the monster. The monster stood up, but Botha immediately shot at it a couple of times. He used the same thorns that the woman had prepared. They were saturated with poison, so the creature must have experienced terrible pain. The creature attacked Botha again, but he easily cut off its tentacles. He didn't even blink. It was so easy. Boda was angry. 10 turned on the power. Now they can use the emergency capsules. In order to evacuate everyone from here, Mao shouted, "It's time to bring people back." 10 noticed the torpedo and said that if it were detonated, the walls would immediately collapse, having brought down an entire building behind them. But the guys already knew that. The monster stood right in front of Botha, but his hands were no longer shaking. Well, it's not surprising, because he lived through all this. And now everything is different. Not like before. He cannot retreat. After all, his sister is there, his little sister, and her anger overcomes her fear. It doesn't scare him much. Rather, Botha thinks of it as if it does. He has another goal ahead of him, and by overcoming it, he will be able to return Lita. The creature's tentacles flew up, but they didn't grab Botha. Then Botha teasingly asked if his eye was failing him, or if the poison was working. But the monster didn't want to catch Botha. His goal was the boulder. Before the monster could throw the boulder at Botha, he jumped up. He immediately pressed the button, and the blade flew straight towards the monster. The blade plunged into his throat, and Botha quickly wrapped it around the monster's neck. Botha began to pull with all his might and was able to cut off his neck and head. He jumped with all his might onto his back and thrust his sword in. The monster's body became covered in goosebumps and then burst. Botha killed this monster single-handedly. People froze in shock. They forgot about the exit and about escape, and looked at Botha. And Botha came forward, carrying Lita in his arms, and the people no longer shouted. Botha asked Lita to open her eyes and apologized for killing the monster so slowly. He kept muttering and muttering, asking Lita to open her eyes. But she didn't answer, and Botha got scared. He apologized and asked her to wake up. Suddenly the water began to slowly recede, and the grandfather activated the pumps. Noah realized that his grandfather had managed to restore the electricity. It's too early to rejoice. The monsters hatched from their eggs and ran towards the people. Noah asked Botha to get up because it was dangerous here. But Botha was too depressed. He continued calling Lita. The monsters ran quickly towards the people, but suddenly stopped. Lita stopped them with just a wave of her hand. Botha was glad that she was alive, and he didn't care what was happening around him. Lita stood up herself. Kana and the others finally ran to the people, and Kana saw Lita. There was a whole crowd of monsters in front of Lita, and they stood quietly. When Lita turned around, the guys saw that her eyes had changed color. Before he could ask her anything, Lita lost consciousness. It was too early to think about what happened. It was more important to get out of there. Botha hugged Lita tightly and said that they were going home. But others were not so happy about it, given what had happened. They were worried that Lita, like Jack, would turn into a monster. Botha himself understood this, but he didn't want to believe it. She was too valuable to him. Kana didn't say anything yet, but she also had doubts. She realized that Lita looked the same as the infected Jack. She may be more infected than Jacko, but thanks to her, they got out. She wanted to find out what happened there. The guys climbed into the boat, but 10 suddenly told them to go without him. Noah and Leah were against it, but the grandfather quickly closed the boat and explained. He is too old to adapt to a new life. Unlike them, the children cried and called for their grandfather, but he pressed the button, and their boat sailed upward, the grandfather apologizing for not being able to go with them. He hoped they would understand one day that this place was everything to him. 10 believed that the children had a bright future ahead of them, and there was no point in wasting it in this place. From now on, Noah and Leah are the last survivors of the underground city. There is no need to be afraid. They can live in a new world with other people. The kids burst into tears when they saw the endless sky they had heard about from 10. And 10 dragged the torpedo to the frozen monsters, repeating, his comrades, brothers, friends, son, and finally his love. The monster took everything from him. He never forgot it. His hatred only grew, and the reason he still lived. It was for this moment. It was for his people. 10 started the torpedo. It began to hiss and then exploded, fire filling the entire nest. The walls collapsed. Water gushed overhead. The city was destroyed. People noticed the boats and ran to greet their friends and family. The kidnappers were reunited with their families. People were happy and only Botha was gloomy. The man asked what was wrong with Lita. Botha lied that she was just tired. Then the others told the man what had happened. Sonia asked Kana what she was planning to do. Rumors spread quickly. She saw Jack. If this happens again, the village will be in danger. What if Lita destroys this place? Kana just asked. Sonia thinks so. Suddenly the water began to boil and the inheritance floated to the surface. People started to rejoice, and Kana declared that this child would not destroy this place. Sonia saw it herself. They got out of there, thanks to Lita. And perhaps this child is the key to the solution. People thanked Kana, but she was modest, saying that it was a joint effort. Mao said that she didn't need to be modest. Everyone was grateful to her. Then he asked how Lita was. Kana replied that she was still sleeping. Like a newborn baby, only it wasn't. Pak was still angry about Jack's death and said he was interested. Will she be human when she wakes up, or will she become a monster? Like Jack, considering she spent most of her time in an egg, apparently they were infuriated that Lita was still human, unlike their friend. Sonia was angry at Kana, who saved her life by killing Jack. She asked what Kana would do when Lita became a monster. Bada sat next to Lita, without blinking, and waited for her to wake up. He had another dream where Lita was crying alone on the ship. The little girl, crying, said she asked him not to leave. Bada apologized and promised that he would never leave her again. But Lita turned into a monster and attacked Bota. Bada woke up in horror from this nightmare and tried to calm down. Turning around, he saw that Lita had woken up and was sitting silently. Kana returned home wondering if Lita would become a monster. Would she be able to kill her with her own hands? She opened the door and froze. She saw the children sitting quietly at the table. Lita greeted her. Lita ran up, hugged Kana tightly, and apologized for making her worry. Kana exhaled and hugged Lita back, the family together again. Later, Lita explained that after she ended up in the egg, her consciousness began to fade until darkness completely enveloped her. Suddenly she heard someone calling Lita, but she forgot that it was her name. Then Mom appeared and she repeated Lita's name. Bada asked if she saw her mother. Lita answered that she doesn't remember her mother, but she can say that it was definitely her. Her mother was protecting her. Despite the fact that Mom died because of her, Bada objected. Mom did not die because of Lita, but Lita knew that her mother died immediately after giving birth, and she blamed herself for her death. She tried the food and said that the mackerel was very tasty. Kana said that the chef prepared it especially for her. Lita was glad that she could eat his food again. Bada looked at his sister affectionately and was glad that Lita was the same. But Lita lied. In fact, the food tasted disgusting to her. Now Lita couldn't eat human food. Lita was hungry. She caught a fish and began to eat it and drink its blood. For some reason, raw fish seemed very tasty to Lita. Suddenly she smelled something and ran towards it. The smell was incredibly pleasant to her. It drove her crazy. My mouth just can't stop watering at the thought of eating this. She was ready to eat everything, but she swam to the corpses. And that smell was human blood. Lita was scared of herself. But the monastic side of Lita prevailed. The smell attracted her madly and she couldn't stop. Suddenly a man appeared and kicked Lita to the side. Then he asked what a brat like her had lost here. It was that same pirate from the cafe and he remembered Lita. The man asked if he should kill her. The pirate said there was no need to rush things. They will not be able to escape the stigma of pirates if they continue to behave like this. The pirates killed the guards who were protecting the inheritance. Lita tried to run away, but the pirate grabbed her and ordered her to shut her mouth. Otherwise he would kill her. But Lita bit the pirate on the hand, and she really liked the taste of blood. She froze and licked her lips. The pirate realized that she was the infected one and decided to tease her. Lita couldn't stop. She really liked the taste of blood. She began to lose control, but the pirate was only amused. Then Lita simply cut off his head with one hand. The other pirates started shooting at her, but she dodged the bullets. And then she killed one pirate after another, unable to stop herself. The pirate took out a knife and waving it, shouted at her not to come closer. But Lita calmly grabbed his hand and squeezed it. She was hungry, madly hungry, and she was going to eat him. Suddenly Mao and the others appeared. They came to the screams. The pirate shouted, "Sea monster!" Then the men took out their weapons. Mao raised the flashlight and saw Lita, even though she was trying to cover her face. The pirate took advantage of this and plunged a knife into her shoulder. Then her hand began to change shape, and Lita screamed madly. Mao couldn't shoot Lita, but Sonia appeared and she wanted to take revenge on Kana. She said that she would deal with it herself. She would do it quickly. Lita attacked Sonia and she repelled her attacks. Lita fell, but she immediately stood up. Sonia shouted to Lita, "Calm down. Otherwise it will only make things worse. She has no other choice. Since she is no longer human, she will do everything quickly." Sonia prepared to attack Lita, but Bota stopped her. Then Sonia screamed. It was too late. She was no longer her sister. Bada didn't listen to her. He asked Lita. She can hear him, right? He knows she can hear, but Lita attacked her brother. But Bota didn't run away or attack Lita. He just hugged her. He repeated that he was nearby. Everything would be fine. Lita bit Bota. She nibbled on Bota's shoulder, but he didn't even wince and continued speaking. That he is there and will never leave her alone again. They are family. Otherwise he wouldn't have come here, so let her return to him. Lita found herself in the darkness again and someone was calling her there. Then Lita began to remember moments from her life. And she remembered who she was. The liquid on her hand began to decrease. She burst into tears and asked Bota for forgiveness and explained. She didn't want this. She believed that she shouldn't have been born. If it weren't for her, my mother wouldn't have died. And my father and Bota always missed my mother. Because she loved her dad and Bota very much. And because she felt guilty. She tried her best so that they would not hate her. She wanted to be a good girl, loved by everyone. But now, she had become a monster and didn't know who she was or what to do next. She screamed that she was a monster. Bota said that it was not so. She was. and will always be his little sister. Kana stood at the top. Then she realized that she couldn't kill Lita, even if she was a monster. Is it really true that Lita will never be able to become human again? Although no. There is another way. A doctor from the Busan Union. Maybe he can cure her. In that case, they will have to return to the Busan Union. The very next day, the boys got ready to sail away from the village. Mao asked Kanu not to leave because they needed a leader. She is the only one among the people who could be the head. People begged Kana not to leave. They were scared. Kana stated that one person is not enough to change this place. There were people who led the charge against Jinod when he attacked. There were also those who shared food and helped each other. There are already plenty of great leaders here, and Kana's speech amazed the people. The chief said they loaded the boat with medicine and equipment. He thanked Kanu and Botu for saving the village. They will give their all to make the village better, and the guys can come back whenever they want. There will always be a place for them. The children called Lita and holding out flowers, thanked her for saving them. Then Lita remembered that these were the children she had pushed away. Lita wanted to hug them, but their mother ran out and grabbed the children. Well, the expected reaction is that the mother is protecting her children. The boss said that for him, Lita remains a kind and hardworking girl. And when he recovers, let him visit the village. Sonia told them to wrap it up. It was time for them to sail away. Kana thanked them for taking them with them, Sonia responded. It doesn't matter, they're on the same path anyway. Mao started crying here. The boys sailed away, and people waved to them from the shore. That's how they said goodbye to the port. Pak asked if it was necessary to take them with him, Sonia answered. Maybe yes, or maybe not. But in any case, she was interested in what would happen next. Lita was infected, but she was able to come back as a human, and then she thought, what if she could be the key to finding a cure for the fish plague? But this is what Jack wanted, so Sonia wants to finish the work Jack started. Pak said that Jack would be proud of Sonia. Suddenly the door opened. The kids were happily looking at the ship, Sonia asked. Why did Pak take the children with him? Pak replied. They saved their lives. And they said that they wanted to look at the world, Sonia asked. He supposedly became their father. Pak asked if it was so obvious, then happily ran to his children. Sonia asked how they were supposed to find the Busan Union in the ocean. Kana replied, the Union is heading to the trading port at this time. In order to exchange goods, Kana wanted to enter the coordinates. But Sonia hit her on the hand and said, Kana apparently still doesn't understand. The captain on this boat is she. Kana was confused and still answered. Okay, then Sonia said that Kana could enter the coordinates. Kana suddenly said that she knew Sonia was a good person. Sonia became embarrassed. The children were delighted with the adventure, and Botha made a silent promise that he would definitely save Lita, and it didn't matter where they had to go to do it. A trading port, although it appears to be a huge organization consisting of 5 islands. In fact, after 3 islands collapsed during a typhoon, their influence has diminished considerably. But even in spite of all the misfortunes, these islands are still used as a main place for the exchange of goods. The Busan Trade Union arrived at the trading port and began exchanging goods. People desperately offered clothes and fish, but no one needed it. The doctor was there too. He was looking for people who ordered something. Suddenly the man shouted that they had delivered the fish that the doc wanted. Then Doc was happy and told me to bring everything to him. Other people screamed. They said that they didn't need fish. What should we understand by that? The harpooner hit the man, and he accidentally grabbed the blanket. And then people saw what the man had actually brought. And the man boasted to the doctor that his heart was still beating. Doc was excited, and asked the men to bring the rest as quickly as possible. He ordered the harpooners to take everything to his laboratory. The pressure in the tank is stable, the heart rate is normal. They transferred the organs to a large tank and the monster ate them. The subordinate shouted, "It eats!" The doc finally got his way. The man asked what they were doing with the organ monsters. Their leader said that as long as they get paid, who cares? The important thing is that they get fuel. They boarded the boat and the leader ordered them to hurry. It was time for them to leave. Suddenly Kana and Boda appeared. The man tensed up when he saw Kana. Kana asked how much time had passed. 6 years, right? Busan is leaving in 3 weeks, the man said. He heard here. She created chaos in Busan and then died. Kana said that she wanted to get to Busan, and the man would help her with this. The man asked why. After he helped Theo, his life went downhill. Kana reminded that all debts must be repaid. That's their rule. The man reminded her that he didn't owe her anything. Theo had saved him. Then Boda took off his hood, and the man froze, thinking it was Theo. Boda explained that he was his son, Kana repeated. It was time to repay the debt. There was no choice. The man agreed to help them. The man asked why Kane couldn't live in peace and why he had to come back. She knows that if they get caught, it's the end for them. They arrived at the Union, and 4 years later Botha returned here. The man shouted, "They brought an order for the doctor." The harpooner, it turned out, the man standing there was Dan. Botha and Kana dropped their heads sharply as they dragged the box containing Lita on board. But then the harpooners shouted that they needed to check if everything was correct. He pushed Kana away, and Lita was panicking inside. It was Kip. He lifted the cloth and looked at what was inside. He saw Lita and remembered her. Then he lied that everything was fine. The boys, heads down, entered the ship, and Kip was glad to see them return. Kip led the guys. Boda and Sonia looked at everything, and then Boda understood. That before everything seemed so big to him, but now everything is different. Even the alleys seemed narrower. Suddenly Boda noticed the boss. He was glad to see him, but Hank walked past Botha to Kip. And when he talked to him, Botha was surprised that the boss did not recognize him. Even though so many years had passed, Botha was glad that the boss was safe. Kip said they would meet more people along the way who might remember them. And he suggested going to the market. Boda and Lita were delighted, remembering that place. But when Kip opened the door, they saw a completely different place. Everything was empty. Kana asked what happened to the market. Kip replied, there was a fish plague, and they even started rationing water to prevent the spread of the plague. But after that, the price of water has skyrocketed, leaving the market with no chance. And now, it is mainly the leaders who are involved in distributing water. The harpooner grabbed the man and shouted, the freak stole the water. The man begged for water. There are 4 of them in the family. But this place hasn't changed at all. The harpooners are still as insignificant. People are still being mocked, calling it the law. The man was being beaten. Kana wanted to intervene, but Kip stopped her. And he explained that this was not the Busan she knew. The harpooner declared that water distribution had ended for today because of the Cretan. People were shouting that they wouldn't last until the next water distribution. But the harpooner didn't care if the boys suddenly hit him. Another harpooner wanted to shoot the boy, but Botha prevented this. So the arrows pierced the cistern and the water gushed out. People ran to the water. The harpooners tried to stop them, but it didn't work. Kip said in a way, he was glad they were back. The harpooners wanted to catch the boy, so Botha decided to take him with him. The boy thanked them for their help, and suddenly Lita froze in place. Her eyes turned glassy, then she jumped up. The guys chased after her, but Lita was faster and they lost her. And Lita was at the tank with the monster. She asked who he was, and why so angry. She felt his presence, but the doc appeared. The boys ran past the doctor's laboratory. Kana asked, what is this place? It has never been there before, and Botha continued to search for Lita. He looked around the corner and saw Lita, with a doctor next to her, and Doc said that this child was quite interesting. Although the mutation continues to attack, it still retains its human appearance. There are 2 worlds in her body that fight each other. Meanwhile, Dan saw the mess the boys had made. Dan didn't change. He punished his colleague for letting the guys go. Then he ordered the others to find and bring the boys to him. The doctor was told that Lita could control Genod's offspring. After she hatched from the egg, suddenly the doc said, this is just a guess, but it may be related to their mother's illness. The guys froze, this ability and her miraculous recovery from mutation. All this thanks to the fish plague. Sonia asked how the infected mother gave birth to a healthy child. Doc replied, it was a miracle, or she held out until the very end. And the fact that they returned here after being charged almost seems like fate. The plague spread and killed countless people. And everyone thought that the plague appeared without a reason, but he disagrees. This disease has already spread throughout the ocean. It all started 130 years ago, when a comet crashed into the moon. Having broken it into pieces, a natural cataclysm began on the Earth. Naturally, there were some infections from space. Any sea creature that was infected mutated into monsters, and anyone whose body rejected this change became ill with the fish plague. Bada asked how his mother got infected. The doc replied that the plague had spread throughout Busan 15 years ago, and the one who paved the way for this tragedy. There was their mother, Larissa. She came from an influential family. She was also the kind of girl who didn't like boring things. Basically, she spent most of her time with people from the lower class, and she loved exploring ruins with divers. That's who Boda took after. So the parents met. Larissa collected things for the collection. Dad said Busan would soon be filled with her things. Then Mom suggested buying them a small boat. One day, Busan was exploring the ruins, and it was Larissa who found him. Larissa brought the iron egg to the doctor, and the doctor was delighted. He had never encountered anything like it. He wanted to run tests. Patient 0 was a diver who participated in the dive with Larissa. Then 2 people, 5, 10, the number continued to grow steadily. Fear gripped the ship, diseases with a 100% mortality rate. Things weren't going well, and people started blaming the refugees and throwing them off the ship. They were thrown into the water, and all the others could do was watch silently. But in that situation, Busan had no choice but to kill everyone. To live, however, this angered people, and then the coup began. They claimed that there was no plague, that the upper-class people were just looking for an excuse. To get rid of them, the harpooners killed the protesters. Theo was not the kind of person to stand aside and watch silently. He stopped Dan. But he declared that Theo was also a traitor. Theo fought for the refugees, and under his banner, many lives were saved. Larissa asked the doctor to tell her that all the infected were from her team. The number of infected people has stopped increasing. They must stop this. But Doc said the top brass knows about it. They just want to commit genocide. At the same time, Larissa noticed that she had also become infected with the plague. Due to betrayal, they eventually ended up leaving Busan. But the plague continued to eat away at Larissa. She couldn't survive the mutation, but somehow gave birth to them. He is sure that with the mutation she passed on special traits to them. But they didn't know about that anyway, did they? Boda remembered about holding his breath. Therefore, the female Janota chose Lita as her successor. But her mutation was interrupted because Boda took her early. And this flaw brought her to perfect balance. Doc found himself a test subject and he wanted to study Lita. Kana asked if they had a way to cure Lita. But the doc didn't want this. He asked why. She was perfect. How much longer, in their opinion, will humanity survive on a land covered with water? Sooner or later, all the islands will be engulfed by typhoons, and the ships will end up rusting and will no longer be able to stay afloat. Humanity doesn't have much time left if they want to survive. I'll have to change. Suddenly the monster started knocking. Boda asked what was inside the thing. Doc offered him to take a look. Kana and Boda came up and saw this monster. Boda realized that he had seen this monster somewhere before, but he couldn't figure out where. And then Boda saw that the monster looked like his father. And the doctor said he would help them, Kentars. Boda was horrified and asked what he meant by this, why he brought him back to life. Doc said it took 4 years before he could feed himself. Also, he is a worthy specimen. Kana said he is dangerous. He's one of the 7 sea devils, the doc said. The risks are worth it. Humanity has little time left, but Lita has come. When they needed her, Kana was against it. She stated that they came to turn Lita back into a human. Doc asked. Kana says that Lita is no longer human. Just because it looks a little different. By what criteria do they determine whether there is a person in front of them or not? If they don't adapt to the aquatic world, they will die out. If they don't want to suffer the same fate as the dinosaurs, they need to evolve. This did not convince Kana. She stood between him and Lita. But Boda wanted to kill the monster. He couldn't be left alive. But it didn't work. The harpooners came running and pointed their guns at the boys. The doctor leaked them, he called them here, and also attacked Boda. Having declared that it was his mission, the captain then came up and praised the doc. He asked Kanu to put down the weapon. He wanted to talk. The captain heard everything they said. They want to cure this child, they can do it. Only if Kana cooperates with them. Diplomacy is the best solution to such conflicts, isn't it? Kana agreed, and then the harpooners lowered their weapons. Afterwards, the captain said, the ship protected them from the Great Plunge for more than a century. Such an impressive ship, it could sink in an instant if the system failed. The captain pointed to the sign and said, Theo's spirit is returning. There have been 3 riots this week alone, Kana said. They are not rebels. People just need water, the captain replied. There is nothing that can be done about stratification. There are not enough resources for everyone. Kana said she wouldn't help them suppress the people. The captain said, no need. They need help with something else. They ask her to come back and become a hero to everyone. He can't give people resources, but he can give them hope. However, hope has no price. Kana is truly impressive. She grew up as a refugee, became an ace among harpooners. She is perfect. To play the role of a hero, to give hope to the people below. Kana refused, but the captain reminded her about Lita. They invested a huge amount of money into studying the plague. And if anyone can cure Lita, it's the doctor. She knows it herself. They will give them everything they have. And Kana, in return, will help them with the uprising. In the morning, Boda woke up in a luxurious place, which alarmed him. He was wondering where he was when suddenly a man came and greeted him. Boda asked where he was, the man replied, on the very top deck. Welcome home, said the man. They brought him to the other guys. They were already waiting for Boda. Boda asked where Lita was. The door opened and his sister came in. The man said that she was a copy of Risa, her mother. He is the butler of this house. He is happy to serve the young masters. They are both descendants of the noble Suwon clan. Even before the dive, their clan were big shots. Sonia asked why Boda was pretending to be a tramp if he was rich. Boda replied that he had just found out. The butler whined that Miss Larissa had fallen in love with this thug. There is still something to talk about. But first, we need to eat. The boys tried beef for the first time, although other food also impressed them. Lita saw apples for the first time. It turned out that Busan has 10 apple trees. The 10 families who built this ship each planted a tree. All this was theirs by right. The butler was happy that he could serve them. Up here, the shelves are stacked with bottles of whiskey and hot water flows from the tap. While below, people are being beaten for trying to get some water. Bada understood this, and it angered him the inferior ones were suffering. While the top brass is enjoying life, Botha is deep in thought. Do all the upper classes really live like this, simply because they were rich 100 years ago? Suddenly Boda remembered about Kanu and ran out. He was worried that something might have happened to her, where she was. Boda opened the door and ran into Dan. Dan froze when he saw Botha, as if he had seen a ghost. He grabbed Botha and shouted why Theo was still alive. Botha didn't react. Dan realized it wasn't Theo. Then Botha himself grabbed Dan's hand and squeezed it. Boda asked who he had extended his paws to. He would regret it. If he continues to treat him like a child. I never noticed it before, but was he always this worthless? In fact, he was the one who threatened the children and tried to throw Grandma overboard. How many evil deeds did this man commit while he was here? Boda wanted to kill him right here and now. Dan brushed Bot's hand aside and stood up, just as the butler arrived. And he shouted, the captain had long since forgiven Miss Risa and Theo. Botha and Lita are the rightful heirs, and Dan threatened them. Does Dan really think he can handle the consequences? Boda asked if the butler had seen Kanu. Dan was upset that Kana had returned too. Bruce realized that Kana had become even stronger and had not lost her grip. People were shouting Kana's name again and the guy was filming her. The operator felt uncomfortable under Kana's gaze. But people were very happy about Kana's return. It seemed the captain's plan was working, and the people were inspired. They talked about how Kana was also a refugee, and now she is a hero. And they began to think that they too should become harpooners. Dan couldn't stand it. He was looking at the poster with Kana. He was angry that Kana had become a hero, and vowed that he wouldn't let things go that way. People were still chanting Kana's name, but Kana herself was angry. Lita was going downstairs. The assistant said that the doc was waiting for her, and she was upset about it. She didn't want to go there at all. Suddenly Lita noticed a familiar door, the room they lived in. Lita was delighted to see their old room. She wondered if the situation inside had changed. She quietly made her way into the room, and nothing had changed there. What made Lita happy was that she lived here with her brother and watered the flowers. And these flowers sprouted. Lita admired them. Suddenly a boy appeared and greeted Lita with displeasure. Lita got scared and asked for forgiveness. She didn't know that anyone lived here. The boy said, "But they live here." Suddenly they remembered each other. His name was Kim. He didn't expect to meet Lita so soon. Kim asked if she had lived here before. Lita replied, 4 years ago. He and his brother were the ones who grew this plant. Her brother said they symbolized hope, but she didn't think so. That he would grow up so handsome, Kim said. Sounds cool. He has hopes of becoming a harpooner someday. Lita asked how Kana was. Kim replied that she was good, but he wanted to be like Theo. He differed from today's harpooners in that he did not harm people. Lita was glad that her mother became someone's hope, and she wanted to become one too. Suddenly, Lita noticed veins on her hand and hid them. She apologized and ran out of the room. Lita was angry at herself for forgetting about her mutation. She didn't want to become a monster. Lita ran to the doctor, and she told the doctor that she wanted to become a human. She didn't want to be a monster. Doc responded, albeit a little, but they managed to extract the mutagen from Kentris. Can't promise anything, but they have a good chance. Her contribution will be invaluable. She is the hope of humanity. Lita wondered if this meant she could help people too. She can save people from the fish plague, and also continue to live with Boda and Kana. She doesn't want to lose them. The monster in his tank was watching her. Lita and Kim became friends. They walked through the pipes and Lita asked, "Where are they going?" Kim replied, "To a secret place. She is the first." To whom he shows this place, Kim took Lita by the hand, because it's slippery there and he doesn't want her to fall. And it seems that our Lita heard a heartbeat for the first time. This is where Kim collected water, this pipe leading to the upper deck. He collects this water for his uncle and wife, who recently had a baby. Lita was glad that Kim was a good guy. Lightly touching it with her finger, Lita blushed. They were watching the sunset. What a sweet moment. Then Kim and Lita brought water to the man. The man thanked him. Kim replied that everything was fine, and he asked the baby to grow up strong and healthy. Kim then took the water to the little children, and also to the old men. Lita looked at him with admiration. Remembering their conversation in the morning, she thought he had a bright future. She said she believed Kim would become a great harpooner. Kim was happy, and Lita wanted to show him something. She held out the apple to him and told Kim what it was. He tried it and was surprised by the taste. Lita was glad that he liked it, and she offered to share them with the others. Since she had a lot of apples, Kim was very happy. Kana said goodbye and went home, and Kim no longer pretended. Although his heart was behaving calmly, he could not calm down. Suddenly Kim heard some noise and went towards it. 3 harpooners beat one man. One of them shouted, "Have the courage to repeat it." The poor guy believed it. Taxes increased greatly. Then the harpooners began to beat the man again. Kim got angry and decided to stop them by writing an opposition sign. After all, he wanted to become as great as Theo. Kim decided to attack these scum who were dishonoring the name of the harpooners. He shouted loudly, "Stop terrorizing people." The captain reported to the towers with the return of Kana. The number of applicants for harpooners has increased by 10%. Also, the percentage of riots has decreased by 30%. But the higher-ups didn't care much. The old man ordered that Kana's airtime be doubled. They also proposed raising taxes again, and others supported it. But one of the judges was not there. Then the judge said, "A representative of the Na, Boda, and Lita families appeared on the ship. But they are not there. They were lucky with their heritage, but they have not gotten rid of the habits of scum." And yet the old men decided that it was better without them, and continued the meeting. The contenders for harpooners gathered in one place, and among them was Boda. Kana immediately noticed him. They went off to talk. Boda wanted to become a harpooner, but Kana was against this, explaining that they were providing all the necessary assistance to Lita, and they even live a rich life. Boda asked how long it would be like this. Kentress is beneath them. They can't live peacefully with him. It's time to return Boat's father's sword. Kana believed that the monster was trapped and couldn't escape, but Botha told her not to underestimate the monster. The father had to sacrifice himself to kill this creature, and the doc resurrected him. He is not in his right mind. Bada himself saw what the creature was capable of. The creature mummified countless families, also used a dirty trick against him. Kentress is different from other monsters in many ways. He is the embodiment of the devil. He knows how to play with the human mind, and it can do a lot if you don't handle it carefully. Doc is probably already under his influence. It's not the monster that's locked up with them. It's they that are locked up with it. Down below, the guy asked if the doc wanted to take a rest, but the guy, not knowing the situation, simply said, "That doc is such a hard worker," but he wasn't Doc. Bada was right. Kentress had something in mind and had already started acting. The guy calmly changed his clothes, and suddenly the doc asked, "When I was getting ready to go home," the guy asked in shock if the doctor hadn't been in the lab. Doc didn't understand anything. Suddenly the sirens turned on. They quickly ran back to the laboratory. There they saw that the monster had crawled out through the pipe. Doc ordered the guy to turn off the power, but the creature killed him. Then the doc tried to block the pipe, but the monster simply tore it apart. All pipes and wires were destroyed. Water gushed out, and Frankenstein's monster came out. Lita ran among the crowd of protesters with apples. She ran towards Kim. Suddenly she noticed blood. By the smell, she realized that it was Kim's blood. Then Lita ran as fast as she could, following the trail of blood. Having reached the corner, Lita saw sweet, poor Kim. The freaks killed baby Kim. Lita was horrified. The man noticed her and asked if she knew this child. He went against the harpooners, and they didn't even bat an eye. And they killed the baby. Lita fell to the floor and took his hand. She recalled Kim talking about his hopes for the future. I remembered how kind and caring Kim was, and I couldn't understand why Kim deserved this. His hand was no longer warm as before. Lita didn't understand why people killed their own kind. The author deserves punishment for killing this baby and Lita's future with him. Lita suddenly remembered how people were shouting about monsters, and I started remembering all those terrible men. Then she wondered who the real monster was. Suddenly the sirens began to sound, and the harpooners were ordered to get ready. Kentress walked down the dark corridor with his mouth full of people. The harpooners headed to the laboratory. They decided that a simple explosion had occurred there. But when they turned on the light, they saw this and ran away in horror. Two managed to run out and close the gate. They decided to report this to their superiors and call the harpooners. But they remembered that they were harpooners and had to kill monsters. And not small children, old people and people. They heard muttering, and they realized that they were in a living area, and the devil was behind the gates. The monster is capable of destroying everyone in a couple of seconds. People didn't know what was happening and went about their business. The devil, in truth, was not kept in the reservoir by anything. However, he kept quiet and observed the hierarchy. And for people absorbing knowledge, the devil easily opened the gate and made his way into the living area. The contented creature killed people for fun. It didn't even eat them. The creature just killed them. And it destroyed everything in its path. The bridge fell on people. Luckily, Bruce managed to save a couple of people from death. People were happy to see him, but the monster stared at him. Also with Bruce were Lee, a 2-star harpooner, and Leo, a 1-star harpooner. For exactly 4 years, they were engaged in protecting the Union without Kana. When Kana returned and was made the new leader, Bruce, along with Dan, were not happy about this. It seems Bruce turned out to be as pathetic as Dan. Dan added fuel to the fire by calling Bruce Kana's shadow. His plan to overthrow Kana was working. Bruce decided that Khan was his enemy. He decided to prove it, that he would be the next Leviathan killer by killing this creature. And in a second, Bruce's speech was over. The devil killed him. It was incredibly fast. People couldn't even understand anything. But Bruce was a 3-star harpooner. What can we say about 1-star harpooner? They didn't have the slightest chance. And if Pusan lost the harpooners, there won't be a single chance against Kentress if this happens. Then this place will become a hunting ground, full of prey for Kentress. Upper deck, the captain came running and told about the situation. The management was dismissed and told to close the doors to the upper deck. Even the captain was stunned by such cold-bloodedness. The judge repeated the order, and the captain, like a puppet, accepted it. People ran upstairs and asked to be let in, but the harpooners forbade them to do this and threatened them with arrows. However, people did not think to go down. The devil was below. The devil seemed to grin at the terrible behavior of the harpooners. He reached out to people as if they were ordinary snacks. But finally, Boda appeared and cut off his fingers. Then Boda, like a top, attacked the monster and cut his face. The monster fell and the people looked down to see their hero. But no one knew Boda. They asked who he was. A granny I know said that this is Boda, Theo's son. People who knew Theo said that Botha looked like him. Son of the legendary Theo, people asked Boda to save them. They chanted his name and shouted that Theo's son would be able to kill this creature. Boda concentrated on the creature and the devil looked only at Boda. Then Boda turned to the devil and said, 4 years have passed. The monster also did not forget Boda and his father. Boda said that dad had died a long time ago, but he never stopped thinking about him. Not for a second, my father's body was covered with scars, pointing to the hell he had to go through to protect his family. And his love and enthusiasm for justice was immeasurable. It was deeply imprinted on everyone's minds, as were its scars, which have not disappeared anywhere. His existence has left an imprint on people. But Kentras has no right to mock his father. His father sacrificed himself to kill Kentras, but the creature rose again, but today he will die forever. The monster attacked Boda, but Boda cut the creature's body. The creature screamed and hit Botu with its tail. Boda flew back and crashed into the wall, and the devil immediately opened his mouth. Then Boda slipped past, but the creature still got to him. Boda tried to stop him, but the devil was stronger. He hit Boda and he fell to the floor, but a smirk appeared on Boda's face. The devil realized that something was wrong and raised his head. Then he saw a bunch of harpooners with weapons and Kanu. Kana praised Boda for her work and said that they would figure it out together from now on. She ordered to shoot, and each harpooner shot at the creature. They were shooting at the monster from all sides. The devil was trying to cover himself. The creature became angry and attacked the harpooners. Then others shot harpoons at him and caught him. Kana ordered the truck to go. The car drove at full speed towards the creature, and she crashed into the devil with all her might. It didn't help much. The creature lifted the truck with one hand, and having turned it into soft-boiled meat, he threw it at the harpooners. People suffered greatly and began to lose hope. The cosmonaut ordered that the creature be killed and that they take up a fighting position. The cosmonaut himself shot arrows at the devil. Then the monster threw a truck at him. Kana and Boda finally attacked the monster, and these two were very strong. Like a top, they cut the monster. When the creature attacked them with its tail, they cut off its tail. Boda also cut off one of its tentacles on its body, and Kana jumped on the monster with all her strength, and the creature was pressed into the floor. Kana, filled with anger, chopped at the devil. The monster's mouth filled with foam and he growled loudly. People started saying that Kana was definitely not human. They decided that the monster was already dying, and asked Kanu to finish it off. Kana stood on it and remembered that day on the ship. She wondered why they eat people, because people are not food. When challenging them to a fight, the creatures must be prepared to receive a rebuff, and they must pay for what they have done. After all, people are not such weak creatures as they think. She will send the creature back to hell. Kana prepared to kill the devil. Suddenly, Kana was shot at by her own people, and the monster shook her off his back. A man shot at Kana, then others started looking for him. Of course, that man was Dan. Apparently, he couldn't accept that Kana would become a hero. The monster attacked Kana and she flew backwards. Thinking about why Dan did this, a man with a fragile ego is worse than monsters. Of course, Dan's reason was pathetic. He didn't want Kana to become a hero. The creature was preparing to eat Kanu, but Boda attacked it. He thrust his sword into it and shouted, "It's over." But the creature did not want to die. Bubbles appeared on the body and the creature ran. The devil tore apart the wall of the ship and climbed out. Boda also found himself outside. The monster was climbing up, and Boda ran after him, and Kana was furious. Because they were so close, in anger she threw her sword at Dan. Dan crashed down and people noticed the gun next to him. They asked in shock, "This can't be the same." Dan shot at Kana, and Dan had the nerve to order Kana's arrest for assault. Kana shouted. Everyone risked their lives to catch the monster. But because of this asshole, the monster escaped, and people bared their teeth at Dan. Dan knows better than anyone what happens to those who break the law. The iron rules he keeps repeating, and today he broke one. Dan brazenly asked who gave her the right to raise her voice at him. Kana shouted. He had violated his duty as a harpooner by attacking his comrade. But Dan said he was a top-class harpooner. His word was law. Kana shouted, a top-class harpooner who had put Busan in danger. Dan said he had enough and decided to fight her. Kana sentenced him to death and attacked him. She chopped his head off in a second and it flew to the side. After that, she lost consciousness and fell down. Now the only hope was for Boda. The devil continued to climb up. And Boda caught up with him and wondered where he was going. Ignoring people, he simply climbs up. But Boda decided that the reason was not important. The main thing was to kill him. And at the very top stood Lita, holding Kim's helmet. Her eyes changed. 3 hours earlier in the lab, Lita came to the doctor. Doc told her to go upstairs because it was dangerous. But Lita only asked what the doctor did to her. Doc said that he collected all the mutagens from Kentris in this seed, and he poured them into a reservoir of water for the sake of human evolution. But it was then that the best candidate for evolution appeared, and this is it. He put everything on the line, and in doing so, added mutagen to her blood. Doc asked, did she feel a change in herself? Does she control her consciousness? Her eye is beautiful, Lita asked melancholically, but the doctor had no idea what it was. Doc said it didn't matter. Let her show what she was capable of. The harpooner came running and reported that Kentris had escaped from the lower deck. The captain asked what the squad was doing. The guy explained that they were destroyed. Even Kana is in critical condition. Then the old people became nervous and thought about what to do. The captain asked, does that mean no one else can stop the monster? The operator reported that the residential area was completely destroyed, and up above, the rich people calmly sipped their wine and chatted. The old man ordered to open the partitions on the lower deck and lure the monster there. It will satisfy its hunger and then leave the ship. The captain ordered the partitions to be opened. They don't know that the devil is smarter. Then they noticed Lita. She was standing outside the window. A second later, Kentris appeared behind Lita. But he didn't attack Lita. He broke through to the old people. Then the old men got out of their chairs and ran away. But they won't be able to escape. The monster was destroying everything around him. Soon the upper deck was almost destroyed. Bada climbed up and saw the bodies of people, and then his sister. The monster held Lita as if she were a queen. Bada asked Lita to move away from him. He is dangerous. But Lita explained that the monster was protecting her. But Boda did not believe her. And he asked Lita to slowly approach him, Lita said. It thinks that she is her child, Boda shouted. It is impossible. Suddenly Sonia appeared and instantly cut off the monster's arm. Then, pulling Lita towards them, they ran away from the monster. The monster ran after Lita, but the crane crashed into it. After this, Boda cut open the monster's belly. Boda was not going to stop there. He plunged his sword into him, and with it he rushed down, destroying the ship. The monster could no longer move. Its insides were spilling out. Boda barely got up, and suddenly Kana appeared. Without thinking twice, Boda pierced her with his sword. Boda immediately realized the deception, and wouldn't fall for it a second time. Moreover, it missed a detail. Kana is not smiling. Boda cut the monster's tail and shouted, "It's time to accept your death." He pierced the monster with his sword and ran forward. Boda jumped on the monster's face and cut it open. The monster's face simply exploded. The creature deserved to die more than twice. The entire battle was broadcast. Boda was able to kill the devil, who killed. People rejoiced that the monster was no more. Kip was there too, and he told the cameraman to film Boda. And it seemed like Kip was very proud of Botha. Now was the moment when the Leviathan killer was born. Boda ran to his sister and shouted if she was wounded. Lita said that she was completely fine. She looked normal. Boda exhaled, seeing that Lita's eye had returned to its former state. Lita asked why she was sad about Kentris's death. Boda still didn't believe that the monster had gone to Lita, but he didn't run away to the sea. Then he asked if it was Lita who called him. "Why?" Lita answered. "Did people take away her nest and offspring?" While in that tank, all she did was shed tears. After a while, she became filled with determination. Kill all the people on deck, so Lita called her to the upper deck. All she did was change the order of who was supposed to die first. But Botha managed to prevent the massacre. Botha tried to behave normally. Apparently, he didn't want to accept that Lita had changed. They suffered enormous damage. It can't even be called a victory. The men said that if they had known more ego, perhaps they would have been saved. Half of the heirs were killed, and the other half are claiming the inheritance. Their time has come. 9 out of 10 shareholders are dead. But he survived. He was only 20. And this is the perfect age to use him as a puppet. After talking with him, they will make this ship theirs. The doctors tried to save the harpooners, but Kana still hadn't woken up. She has serious injuries, the doctor began to explain. What's worse is that they don't have enough disinfectants. And bandages. In that massacre, too many people suffered. They won't last until tomorrow unless they find medicine. Who should they treat first with the remaining supplies? The men said they heard they needed medication. They introduced themselves. One was called Simon, the other Joshua. And they are here in the hope that they can help. It just so happens that they have a whole storeroom full of medicines. Naive Boda decided that they would help him, and already thanked him. But Simon said they were quite expensive, so just giving them away wasn't an option. Boda asked what they wanted, and she answered herself. A small favor. They will provide the medicines, and Botha will hand over the water rights. The manager was killed, which means they have no one to manage it. If Botha hands over the water rights, they guarantee that the water quality will double. Water is the most valuable resource on the ship, and by gaining rights to the water, they will take over the entire ship. They hoped that Botha was naive enough to take the bait. Botha asked if he had the right to make such decisions. The butler replied, "Yes, Botha is the only surviving shareholder. You could say that the whole ship is in Botha's hands." Botha thought seriously he himself knew how much people needed water, and he asked for time to think. The smell of profit had already attracted the snakes. Cold-blooded businessmen who only care about money, and there will be many like them. Over time, they will thirst for the power of Botha, and Botha is too young and inexperienced to deal with such people. The butler was worried about how he and Miss Lita would survive in this snake world. Sonia didn't understand that water was gold, and why it was impossible to transfer the rights to them. Kip explained that the protests began because water managers raised the price, and these two are famous for their depravity. Nothing good will come of it. If they get the water rights, Botha knew it himself, but they need medicine. Botha struggled to find a solution, but he's now a big shot, and he will often have to make such decisions, someone suddenly said. Obviously we need to choose supplies, they are so slow-witted. It turned out that Kentras had not killed Bruce, he was alive, and just as gloomy. Botha was glad that Bruce managed to survive, Bruce responded. He turned out to be tenacious, or they think that he allowed some monster to kill him, said the bandaged guy who couldn't move a finger. Bruce was embarrassed and shouted, "He is still a 3-star harpooner." Sonia mocked him by saying he wanted to say 3-second Bruce. He gave such a speech and then blew it. Sonia was now bullying Bruce. Puck asked her to stop. Bruce called to Botha and shouted at him to do everything he could to save Kanu. Botha recalled that Bruce ignored Kana's orders, saying he didn't need a commander. Bruce admitted that this was true, but now he realized that he was no match for her, and the Union needs her, so they have to save her. He sheepishly asked to save their commander. In the morning, Botha gathered all the towers together and they were unhappy about it. But they knew that Botha had absolute power. He is also the son of Risa and Theo, and that Botha killed Kentras. Botha finally showed up and thanked them for coming. People were upset that Botha was so young. Botha explained that he had gathered them to discuss damage control issues. First, he would like to address Simon's generous offer. He decided to accept their offer. Simon hid his grin, and Joshua feigned gratitude to Botha for the water rights. Others realized that the two had already used the child for their own purposes. They were already celebrating that the rights to the water were theirs. But then Botha declared that they were not. From now on, the water will be controlled personally by the engine room personnel. The two started whispering to Botha that he didn't need medication. Botha replied, no, he needed them. The men got angry, thinking that Botha had decided to deceive them and take the medicines. Simon asked if Botha intended to take the medications for free. This is robbery, don't they agree? Simon asked the people. The man said he understood that this was for the good of everyone. But imposing your opinion through status is wrong. Simon shouted, right, Botha should know the laws and rights. He gloated that Botha had no idea how the world worked. Rules are for the privileged, Botha decided to pay. Botha showed them the gold bars, and the people froze. But Simon understood that this was just a drop in the ocean. Compared to water rights, Botha asked, so what? People enchanted by gold said that this was more than enough for medicine. This was Botha's plan. Simon realized it and decided to teach Botha a lesson. And he said they seek trust more than profit. Medicines in exchange for water rights, that was their deal. Botha reminded them that people were dying on deck. But they still refuse, Simon thought. So what? Botha stated that no matter how much they needed the medication, he would never have handed over power over water to the likes of them. This is his final decision. He is waiting, they will also make a decision. And he hopes that their decision will not make others suffer for their own gain. People's lives are not something that can be bargained with by those who are only interested in profit. In this situation, it is better to be prepared for the consequences. And from that moment on, Simon and Joshua lose all rights to run the business. And according to the audit truth, he will order an accounting investigation. The elders did not expect that the youth would manage his power so skillfully. Botha's threats and the new rules made the old people nervous. They bowed and said that Botha could use their medicines. Botha thanked them and said that the harpooners were already on their way to the warehouse. The old people realized that they had screwed up, and they took it lightly. All this time, Botha was a wolf in sheep's clothing. The butler looked at Botha with pride and held back his tears. With the help of medications, lives were saved. But Kana never woke up. The doctors did everything they could. Now everything depends on her. Botha asked Kanu to wake up. He believed that she could handle it, because there was nothing she couldn't do. Kana woke up somewhere, hearing her name. Theo was next to her, telling her that it was time for her to get up. You can't give up so easily, Kana asked if she died. And where is her bandage? Theo replied. They are rather inside her mind. So technically Kana is still alive. Kana was upset that Theo was just her imagination. But on the other hand, she is glad that she can talk to him. Even so, she never stopped regretting that day. The day Theo cut off Dan's hand and ran away. The harpooners searched every corner, and Theo and Risa fled the ship. But Kana found them and asked why Theo did it. Theo replied that he had no choice. Dan was threatening Risa. Kana prepared a boat for them and weeded it. But before Theo disappears from Kana's life forever, she stopped him by taking his hand. The man shouted, "How much longer? He doesn't want to be hanged." Risa asked to give them time to say goodbye. Kane was sad. She didn't want to say goodbye. But she didn't confess to him. She only said that Theo was expected. Theo apologized and thanked her again and swam away. Kana never stopped regretting that moment. She knew that they were seeing each other for the last time, but she did not confess her feelings. Mainly because of his gaze on Risa, but it's her dream. And not real, even if she understands that her feelings are true. They won't reach Theo, and she doesn't mind if she says goodbye to him forever. Theo duly reminded her that it was her dream. Kana admitted that on the day Theo saved her on the ship, she fell in love with him at first sight, and ever since. Her feelings unchanged, Kana said goodbye to Theo, and she kissed him. A kiss with Theo that never happened in reality. It happened in her dream, but Kana kissed Boda in reality. Earlier, Botha looked at Kana and remembered the day she saved them. The one who saved them, knowing that she would lose everything, is the strongest. And a fair man, whom Botha knows. From the moment she saved them on the island, he looked at her as a hero. After living together for a certain time, he became consumed with desire. To be like her, that's why he asks her to wake up. He asks not to leave him. Kana muttered something. Then Boda jumped up to her and shouted, "Kana, this is Boda." But Kana didn't hear him. She pulled him towards her and kissed him. Then she fell into a deep sleep again, leaving Boda with bitterness. Meanwhile, the boss fixed the pipe and people had water. They connected the water pipes and now clean water is coming in. People asked if this meant they could use water as freely as before. They thanked Hank, but the boss said they should thank Bot. But Botha still couldn't come to his senses. Hank thanked Botha for bringing water back to the people. And he added that he had grown so much it was hard to believe. It's a pity Kim didn't live to see this moment. He would have been very happy. The guys surrounded Bada and showered her with compliments. Bada swayed from side to side from fatigue. And all the people started chanting Boda's name. Sonia teased and said that Boda had become super popular. But Boda's brain couldn't keep up with the others. He looked like a zombie. The guys asked him what was wrong with him lately. Bada said he would go get checked. But due to fatigue, he skipped a step. This made the boys even more worried about him. Sonia said that this happened to him. She felt sorry for him. Pak asked where he was going. Sonia replied, "Isn't it obvious?" Pak said to check on Kana, but she hasn't woken up yet. Sonia said that's why he comes to her when they went to the nest. Bada couldn't control his anger because of Lita's kidnapping. But when Kana asked him to calm down, he immediately cooled down. Pak replied, "Of course." He hadn't cooled down. Kana was terrible. Bada turned out to be a smart guy. Pak was surprised. But Sonia understood that this was not the issue. She also knew that the fool himself did not know why he was so downcast. All Boda could think about now was why Kana hadn't woken up yet. He didn't even notice the strange man with a knife next to him. I only thought that Kana was getting better little by little. After all, yesterday she moved her hand. Remembering the kiss, Boda blushed. He hoped she wouldn't remember it. If he remembers, he's finished. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice the attack. The man ran towards him and Boda automatically attacked him. Not knowing that the man wanted to kill him, Boda apologized. Well, training with Kana wasn't in vain. His reflexes greatly improved. Boda finally noticed the knife. The attack was organized by Simon and Joshua. They were angry that Botha was changing the rules of the upper deck, and they wanted to get rid of Boda as quickly as possible. They were coming up with a new plan when they suddenly noticed something. Lita, scraping the walls, approached them. Her eye became different again, and tentacles appeared. The men wanted to run away, but she grabbed them. In the morning, the butler said that both had disappeared without leaving a single sweet. Sonia and Pak said that they were the ones who staged the assassination attempt on Boda, and Boda noticed scratches on the wall. Then he thought about it, and asked if anyone had seen Lita. Sonia said that she hadn't seen her since yesterday. Lita was hiding because she was still in her monster form. She didn't understand why the tentacles didn't disappear. Lower deck, the doc was put in jail. Then Lita came up to him and the doc asked what she wanted. Lita asked the doctor to help her. Doc was glad that she was able to become a new species. Lita said that the people who threatened Boda were punished. But after that, she was unable to return to human form. Doc said, "A caterpillar turned into a butterfly. Can't become a caterpillar again, ever." Doc offered her to accept her fate. This angered Lita. She grabbed him and asked, "She will remain like this until the end of her days." Doc replied, "She becomes a monster, a stronger one. Why live like a human with such power? She is an alpha predator." But Lita was tired of listening to the doctor's nonsense. She squeezed him tighter. Doc, gasping for breath, said, "I want to kill him, go ahead. And the monster's strength will help her with this perfectly." Lita let him go and said she was not a monster. Doc was pleased with his experiment. Bota was still looking for Lita. Kip didn't see her either. Kip asked if something had happened. Bota himself didn't know. Lita was watching Bota from above, but suddenly she collided with a man. And the man noticed the tentacles, then Lita ran away. Lita couldn't show Boat like that. If she can't become human again, then she has to live in the sea. Like a monster, feeding on people. But Lita remembered her loved ones, Mom and Dad, Bota, Kana. She also remembered Kim. The world is full of bad people. But there are plenty of good ones, and these are the people. For the sake of these people, she wants to be human. Lita's cloak flew away and she thought, if she can't become human, then she can use her power. She wrapped herself like a mummy with her tentacles. And Kana finally woke up. Bota was sleeping next to her. She wondered how long she had been unconscious. But she quickly realized that Bota was able to kill the devil and save people. She praised him by stroking his head, and this woke Botha up. Bota admitted that he had already begun to think that she would not wake up. He was worried, and even started praying every day. Kana apologized when suddenly Lita arrived. She jumped into Kana's arms, and she said that she also thought that Kana would never wake up. Bota decided to leave the questions for later, and hugged Lita. But Lita is no longer human. She is a monster. However, Lita decided to become a monster that protects people. The first meeting of the council began in the trade union. Leaders from different fields discussed important issues. Later, a new captain was elected at the council. To enhance security, a police department was created. Harpooners were classified as part of the army. After 5 months of hard training, new harpooners appeared. Kana reminded them that they were supposed to protect people from monsters. They risked their lives to protect their home. The guys were shocked that the Leviathan killer was one of them. Kana said they are the stronghold of humanity. Their duties are a heavy burden, but the results will bring them honor. They all became defenders of Busan. Bote got a tattoo of a harpooner, and they offered him to get a red star tattoo because he killed the devil. But Botu didn't care about the stars. He was just starting his journey. Busan quickly returned to normal life. Children, just like Bota in the past, could not find work. Nobody hired them because they were children. Their last hope is the workshop. They walked in and saw a diving device. Leah started checking if the device was working. The system was full of errors. Leah could fix it. The man shouted, "This is not a toy for them." But Leah corrected the mistakes, which amazed the man. And Noah was able to set the device in motion. They tried to fix them for 3 years. The kids did it in a couple of minutes, and Noah asked to take them to work. The man shouted, "Accept," and now they work here. The guys were raising scrap metal from the bottom. They were glad that there were no monsters yet. The boy wanted to defeat the monster and become famous as Bota. Then Botha remembered his conversation with Kana, that he would like to prove himself in a battle with a monster. And I realized that this guy was not much different from him. Now he felt a little awkward from the attention. The man said that for the first time in 20 years he saw a calm ocean. But Botha understood that there were still monsters in the ocean. Rather, they understand that this territory is controlled. And it seems that it is thanks to Lita that it is so calm here, and not Bota. Lita was at the bottom. Then she saw a huge explosion. It seemed like it was a dream. Lita started walking in her sleep. Bota called her, but she heard nothing. She walked out to the balcony and stood there, Bota following her. He asked what happened. Lita pointed to the ocean. It turned out that it was not a dream, but a vision. The huge egg turned out to be a monster, and it called Lita to it. In the library, Grandma found Jenner's ship, which Lita had seen. Here you can see where Jenner was shipwrecked. This is the very place where Lita was in her vision. It is located near the rogue crater where the meteorite collided with the moon. Most of its fragments landed in the Pacific Ocean. People decided to explore it, but for some unknown reason, an explosion occurred, which resulted in the sinking of all the research ships. That's all that's recorded about that crater. It's surprising that Lita saw this ship. Lita said she was sure there was something there. Bota decided to turn a blind eye to this and advised Lita to forget about the dream. Lita agreed and went to pick apples. The man suggested that Lita take a rest for today. After all, Bota is worried about her, but Lita refused. She said that she felt calmer here, as if she were entering another world. The man said that sometimes people need such places. If everything ever goes back to normal, then, with the help of their seeds, they will be able to make the earth green. It looks like a new queen has appeared in the hive. The queen is much larger than other bees. Lita said there was another queen here, probably her sister. Then the bees started fighting and one stung the other. Lita asked why she attacked her sister. The man explained that she was getting rid of competition. This is a natural instinct of bees if the queen is strong. One has the right to seize the kingdom. The other died. She was destined to die the moment she was born. Suddenly, a strange force called Lita. She found herself in a different place, and something appeared nearby. The creature developed a face and tried to say something. It said, "I found her, the one I was looking for." Lita got scared and shouted, "Go away!" The creature exploded. A trace appeared in that place. Lita was breathing heavily. The man ran up and asked if everything was okay with her. This could no longer be ignored. Lita understood that. On the captain's deck, the man noticed another ship, and it was the same ship that Lita had seen. Lita felt it coming closer and ran out. The ship did not respond to the message. The captain froze. Suddenly, a rescue signal appeared. The captain asked from that ship. The guy replied, "No, from the floating city of New York." They were attacked by the same huge crab that killed Kana's family. Another rescue signal appeared, this time from Akroma. They were also attacked by the devil, and then another devil appeared. Even the Oasis port was attacked by a kraken. The largest strongholds of humanity attacked simultaneously. And then there was this ship. The captain ordered the ship to turn around. He realized that they needed to sail as far away as possible, but the ship also quickly moved towards them. The captain ordered the ship to sail away, but there was no answer. 300 meters before the collision. And it happened. The ship broke through into Busan. Water rushed into the ship and people began to panic. At this rate, Busan will quickly sink. The captain ordered the evacuation of civilians. Hank ordered the drainage pumps to be turned on. Then they noticed tentacles emerging from the ship. One of the 7 sea devils of Wormhole. The creatures released a web and it began to suck the blood out of people. They made their way inside the ship with furious force. Kana and Boda arrived in time and saved Hank. Botha asked Hank to run to the shelter with the others. People did not yet know about the monsters and decided that Busan was sinking. The girl hugged her mother, but she died within a second. The creatures managed to get up to the people. Sonya and Bruce quickly cut down several. Kana ordered the harpooners to protect the people. Bada and Kana together furiously destroyed the creatures, but others did not lag behind them. Meanwhile, on the floating city of New York, and in other places, wherever there were people, there were also devils. Bruce praised Sonya for her work, and she tried to flirt, but he ignored it. Sonya called him 3-second. The cosmonaut asked what the situation was, and Kana replied that it was all over. This is strange. It couldn't have ended like this. And so it happened. The creatures regenerated. They connected and then that creature appeared. Her brain was not small. Lita saw it. The creature grabbed the man and used him to communicate with them. It asked where their queen was. The creature grabbed more people and said, "If they don't tell, he will kill them all." Sonya screamed, "There is no queen here," and chopped her head off. Others attacked her too, but it seemed the creature was immortal. In just a couple of seconds, the creature grabbed all the boys. She tried to turn them into zombies too, but Lita came, and she said she is here, the one she needs. Then the creature let go of the boys and rushed towards her. And the guys seemed to be stuck. It won't come off. Then the cosmonaut decided to get out of her spacesuit, and it turned out that she had fish plague. Lita stood outside. She wanted to distract the creature. To protect people, the creature crawled out of the ship. It ran towards Lita, not caring about people. Bada shouted to Lita what she was up to. He asked her to run away, but it was too late. The captain ordered the monsters to be destroyed by fire. The creature said that it had found the queen, then it broke the ship. Lita and the creature fell into the water. Boda jumped after them. Then he saw that Lita was fighting the creature in the form of a monster. There can't be 2 queens in the world, so they fight. Lita asked why she attacked them. She didn't want to fight. The creature grabbed Lita and explained, 1 kingdom, 1 queen. Lita asked to leave them alone and live in peace. The monster is in the water, and she is on land. What is the point of this battle? But the creature did not change its mind and decided to kill Lita. However, Botha did not allow this. Having attacked the creature, Boda shouted that no one dares touch his sister. The battle was interrupted by a piece of the falling ship. The debris fell on Botha and the monster. The more Boda moves, the more air he loses. He used the sword to get to the surface. But the creature followed her, but Boda managed to dodge. And yet the creature did not want to let Boda go. Then Lita couldn't take it anymore and attacked the monster herself. She cut the creature into several pieces with her tentacles. But it regenerated and attacked Lita. The creature began to absorb Litu's power into itself. Bada wanted to stop it, but suddenly he was caught. And it was Lita too. It was a trap. What the creature swallowed was not Lita, but Genod's poison. Lita was able to defeat the creature with her wits. Then Lita began to absorb the creature herself, so as not to allow the creature even a chance to regenerate. Bada froze, looking at his sister. Now she is a queen. The creature repeated that the battle was not over, then burst. It promised to destroy the kingdom of Lita. Hank ordered that the drainage pumps be defended to the end, but water still gushed into the ship. Busan began to fall apart from within. As the Titanic broke into 2 pieces, people fell into the water. Kana couldn't believe that Busan was sinking. Then it was time for the new queen to save the people. Lita grabbed the ship with her tentacles. People were scared and screamed. It was a sea monster. Lita felt sad that people were afraid of her again. And they will avoid her, Boda asked her to hide the tentacles. But Lita knew there was no turning back. This was the only way with which she can save people. She apologized to her brother. Doc said that Lita could become the strongest monster. But Lita was going to become a monster that protects people. She stuck to the ship and spread her tentacles. Lita felt like her body was being torn to pieces. It was too painful for her, and the ship was big. Then she called upon the monsters for help. Some helped her with the hole, others pumped out the water. So Lita saved the ship and the people. People watched, unable to look away. They didn't know whether she was a monster or a human. The boy said that she was like an angel. People said that she was a child sent by God. Boda ran to Lita. Having finished with the ship, Lita fell. They fell into the water together. Boda did not let go of her hand. But Lita understood that this devil had come for her. This meant that others would come too. Batu didn't care. He was ready to fight for her, because he promised to protect her. Lita said that Boda is too kind, and that is why she loves him the most. She would like to stay with him forever. But when the time came to let her go, Botha refused. He repeated that he would never let Lita go. But the creature bit him on the hand and Lita got out. Even then, Botha had no intention of giving up. He begged Lita not to leave, but she swam further and further away. The ship was filled with monster goo. It didn't just stick. And it became one with the ship. The ship will sink if you cut them apart. People still couldn't believe that a little girl did this. But Boda was in despair and could do nothing. Kana asked if the queen the wormhole was looking for was Lita. Boda finally admitted that he had seen Lita changing. But he decided not to look the truth in the eye. Lita is fragile and vulnerable. She must have been scared and lonely. And he acted like an idiot, as if nothing serious had happened. Kana tried to calm Boda down, saying that it was not his fault. She herself was worried about Lita and wondered where Lita was. The captain came out to speak at the table of the summer voyage. They were never attacked by leviathans. As always, these creatures will stop at nothing. The creatures will only thirst for human blood more intensely. They must not suppress their anger. They must not sit idly by and wait for your death. It's time to unite into one whole. Give them a fight. For the sake of their future, it's time to show them. These creatures, what people are capable of. Everyone applauded the captain. Parliament unanimously passed Operation Extermination. Planned to destroy the leviathans. Pack asked how they could find the nest, what to rely on. Ota answered to Lita. She said that she saw a nest. Wormhole arrived on the sunken Jenner. And here is the black box they pulled out of Jenner. Their nest must be where all the ships sank. It could lead them there. Leah restored the GPS. Somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, not far from the chains of Imperial Mountains. The monsters hunting Lita are there. Bada was determined to get his little sister back, and kill every Leviathan if necessary. People decided to unite and everyone sailed to Busan. They were worried whether they would be able to get there alive. The sun went down and people ran inside the ship. People huddled close to each other and the ship began to shake. The monsters tried to get to them and eat them. The creatures climbed out onto the deck, and the people fell silent. They started to smash the deck to get to the people. Suddenly everything became quiet, but the door opened and the harpooners got ready. But these were not monsters, but Boda and the guys. The harpooners asked who they were. Boda replied, "Harpooners from Busan." They rushed to help them as soon as they received the signal. The people rejoiced at being rescued, and Busan swam up to the ships. The harpooners thanked them for their help and headed to the floating city. Bada offered to join them. Busan would accompany them. However, not everyone was so lucky. The Mother of God fell due to the invasion of devils. The Oasis port and trading port were partially destroyed. Akroma itself was completely destroyed, and only a small number of people survived. As a result, in one day, about 30% of humanity was exterminated. Because the strongholds of humanity were affected by the attack of monsters, people came together and accepted Operation Extermination. The survivors headed to New York. Busan sailed to New York and requested entry into the harbor. New York is the largest floating city, built in the shape of a cone. To maintain stability during typhoons, there used to be 3 of them. But due to an unknown explosion, both sank at once. They say that this city is the last stronghold of humanity. Sonia used to live here. She returned after 3 years. The boys turned their heads in delight, looking at the city. Bada noticed the harpooners and thought, "I can't believe how many harpooners there are from all over the world, ready to fight against the Leviathans." Suddenly someone shouted, "It's Sukutum!" Kana froze. She pushed aside everyone in her path and met the crab. This creature was the reason why Kana became a harpooner. She remembered again the day when the creature killed her parents. Having survived that hell, she vowed to herself that she would give it her all. And he will kill every last Leviathan, even if it means that. She would have to break herself into pieces. She hoped that she could kill Sukutum, and to pay him back for that day. But in the end, he was killed. Bruce said that it seemed she missed her chance for revenge. Kana thought, even Theo couldn't kill him. All he could do was drive her away. She asked who killed him. Sonia replied that there was only one person capable of this. Clark Miller, 6-star harpooner. Pac said, "Nightmare of monsters. In this place he is a legendary hero." Botha was impressed. His father was also a 6-star harpooner. Miller approached them and Botha greeted him. But Miller walked past Botha and hugged Sonia. Botha asked if they knew each other. Pac replied that it had been a long time ago. But Sonia didn't like this hug at all. She told Miller to let her go, but he asked, "What is she doing? People are watching." Sonia trembled. Bruce noticed that Sonia seemed to still be afraid of Miller. 3 years passed, and the times when she was treated like a failure. It's been a long time, hasn't she changed? Then Bruce freed Sonia from Miller's grip and introduced himself. But Miller told the 3-star not to interfere. Then he told Sonia that she had left the city to become a mercenary. But she hangs out with the rabble. That's her way. Or maybe she did find her abode. The boys got angry. Sonia gathered her courage and told him to stop. He doesn't dare talk about her friends in that tone. He can insult her as much as he wants, but she is not going to tolerate it. Insults directed at her friends, Miller stated, as always, rude. If she intends to communicate with people of her level, so be it. Miller hadn't finished speaking when Botha snuck up on him. And he said that Miller irritates him. Who does he think he is? Miller said that unknown people have no right to communicate with him. Botha said his arrogance could easily stop the 8-star. Miller told Botha not to overdo it, but Botha started teasing him. What angered Miller was that people gathered in hopes of seeing a fight. Miller said he would show Botha how different he was from him, but Botha interrupted him, saying that Miller was a big talker. At that very second, the guys attacked each other. The spectators supported their heroes while the boys fought. Miller thought it would be a quick spanking for the youngster. But Botha immediately showed Miller that he should not be underestimated. As soon as they got close to each other, their fight was interrupted. Everyone immediately froze, and Kana asked the two. In their opinion, they gathered here to fight each other. Botha immediately admitted his guilt and apologized to Kana. Hearing Kana's name, people immediately started whispering. They imagined her a little differently, Miller seeing her stars. He came up to her and greeted her, extending his hand to her. Kana greeted him back and shook his hand, which made Batu jealous.